Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Marvel Comics. Devouring the God Genes. Chapter 1. In 2009, in a small town in Missouri, USA. A blonde woman with a shawl sitting in the driver's seat backwards. The man suggested. Eno, your body is still very weak. I suggest you don't run around. Isn't this still you? Dr. Angela. His name is Eno and he was born in 1991, the day Iron Man Tony's parents were killed by the Winter Soldier. For more than 10 years, Eno has been dragged down by family genetic diseases. This kind of family inherited disease, from the generations to generations of Ivan ancestors, even today's technology still can't find out what it is. Although genetic diseases are not fatal, they can make people weak and weak for a lifetime. Imagine that a normal person, with a normal body, can't lift up an object of 10 to 20 kilograms without the strength. This feeling is really terrible. So the Eno family started a company called Umbrella from the ancestors. This umbrella company is just the same name, not exactly the same as that of Resident Evil. But it is also a company that produces drugs and medical equipment. And now this company is left to Eno. A few days ago, Eno suddenly acquires the gene phagocytic system. 0. As long as a genetic sample is obtained, the system can swallow and evolve, but all it needs is energy. So, Eno is searching for the flower of the gods in Missouri according to his memory. According to Shingju's hometown of Missouri, it is in a small wood. Hidden there is the flower of the gods left by the father of the star, the god Igo. Its role is to parasitize the planet's flower when Igo prepares to swallow the planet. I'm just a doctor. Don't give back hope for the miracle. The doctor in the white coat in the driver's seat stroked his forehead, feeling helpless towards Eno in the back row. Her national name is Angela Ziegler, who has a doctorate in biogenetics and medicine. Angels of Overwatch, don't care if you don't know, this article won't write too much about Overwatch. A few years before she graduated, Eno hired her as her personal doctor. Buckle, buckle. At this time, Eno's car window was tapped twice. After confirming his identity, Angela lowered the window. A strong man in a black suit and sunglasses leaned forward and said, "Boss, I have sent someone from the Red Umbrella department to start searching. Let me confirm the target." Eno nodded, and took out a flat plate from his side, showing a blue fruit on it, covered with flowers with a hollow outer net. Obviously, the flower of the gods has not bloomed yet. Jason, tell them not to contact them when they find it, and then come and notify me. Yes. The brawny man in suit and sunglasses nodded in agreement, took away the tablet and began to tell his men to pay attention. His umbrella has 3 departments in the United States. The red is the Armed Military Department. White is the Drug Research and Development Department. Blue is the Biological Research and Development Department. Although the current umbrella is not as powerful as it is in the game, the reality is that there are still many cooperation projects between the government and medical institutions. After ordering the business, Eno sat in the car and waited for news. Angela looked through the rearview mirror curiously at Eno, who was suddenly abnormal today, and said, "The woods in summer are very dangerous, why don't you let them pick the flowers?" Eno looked at the umbrella security members who had gone into the woods outside the window. "I had a dream, it can cure the disease in my body." "Oh, my goodness," Wen Yan said with an exaggerated gesture and curled her lips. "Why do you suddenly become superstitious?" Eno raised his wrist and looked at the valuable watch and said, "Wait a few more minutes and you'll find out." Shingju's father, Yigo, is of the celestial race, which originally resembled a brain-like consciousness. Then, after millions of years, it learned to gather particles, first create the core of the planet, and then form the planet. This long period of millions of years, Yigo finally has complete control of the planet, and can even control the planet's environment or plants and animals at will. As long as the planet does not die, Igo will not die. So this also led to the reason why Yigo wanted to parasitize and swallow countless planets. A few minutes later, suddenly out of the woods came out a brawny Jason who had just knocked on the window of Eno's car. Jason sprinted over. "Boss, found the target." Eno nodded and pulled the door to get out of the car. Looking at the venomous summer sun, Jason hurriedly pulled out the parasol and held it on top of Eno's head toward the woods of the town. Angela got out of the car and drew a parasol to follow. Against the summer sun, Eno walked into the woods. Follow the cut-down path of the red umbrella department all the way to the side of Tenjin Flower. Ino looked at the flower bone in front of him, and stretched out his hand to the security member next to him, tactical dagger. The red umbrella security members quickly placed the dagger in Ino's hand. Holding a dagger, Ino cuts the hollowed-out nets. Then cut open its blue flower bud fruit. Looking at the fruit of the flower of the gods, Ino stretched his finger and dipped it. Ino. Angela quickly took out a handkerchief and a wet tissue and took Ino's hand back and wiped it. The color of this unknown plant is still very bright. What if it carries toxicity? Your body is still very weak. What if you are poisoned? Although listening to Angela's anxious nagging sound. But another picture has emerged in Ino's consciousness. He felt the earth under his feet, as if he was feeling the planet under his feet, the blue star. It's just that this feeling is still very weak, close to nothing. But the strength of the body's gradual health can't deceive Ino himself. Exposure to the genetic components of the Tenshin tribe. Successful swallowing. Gene phagocytic system. Gene ability. Tenshin 1% plus. Looking at the 1% celestial ability, Ino found that there was a plus sign behind him, so he tried it in his mind. Whether to continue to consume energy to evolve the power of the gods, reach 10% to obtain the full body power, 100% is equal to 10 times, this is an example of pushing. Different abilities require different energy to evolve, please choose carefully. First, use the extra energy in the body every day to evolve the god gene. Upgrading the genes is also strengthening Ino's own body. However, with the energy in Ino's body now, it is not known how long it will take to evolve this celestial ability. Therefore, more efficient and larger energy requirements are imminent. Back to reality. Ino stretched out his left hand and pushed away, still wiping his right hand. Angela said, "It's okay." Angela took the wet wipes and stood aside looking at Ino in surprise. Judging from the strength with which Ino pushed her hand away, she certainly felt it as a doctor and a sensitive person. This is not the level of normal exertion for a person with only 10 to 20 kilograms of strength. Ino just pushed it casually, and it has reached a point that is even more powerful than normal. Looking at Angela in surprise, Ino smiled and ordered Jason next to him. Put the fruit off, take out the root of the flower, save it and take it back. Yes. Jason brought a suitcase from the side and opened it. Inside is a container with a special nutrient liquid. He cut the fruit cleanly and then threw the flower roots by hand and put them in the container. This flower root will not be forgotten so easily. And its ability to parasitize the planet is still there. It is Ino that is in contact with it now, not Ego. Ino wants to bring him back to plant the parasitic blue star to control the blue star and get energy. Otherwise rely on electricity. Then wait until the year of the monkey to complete the evolution of the genes. When she got back in the car, Angela finally couldn't help but turn around and asked, "Your body is healthy?" Ino looked at her and joked, "Superstition." Angela was speechless for a while, angrily turned her head and said, holding the steering wheel, "Sister Angel doesn't like you anymore." The name Angel Sister was given to her by Ino. When Angela took care of him before, Ino often referred to her as Angel Sister. Ino waved his hand. "Go to the airport, go back to New York today, and go to Malaysia in a few days." After an investigation by the umbrella company, Ino also determined that Mare Exodus would not accidentally drop rockets with alien parasites. That's where Venom's symbiote spacecraft crashed. In this group of symbionts, they are still in the form of jelly. Ino can directly swallow them with the ability to venom. Rebirth from a severed limb, no fatal part of the body, even if it is headshot, it is no different from losing a piece of meat in other positions. Underwater breathing, immunity to mental manipulation, body weaponization, etc. are all unexpected abilities of Venom. If these abilities are combined with Hulk, Tier, Diddy. At this time, Angela's cell phone rang a telephone ring. She picked up the phone and took a look, then handed it to Ino, Agent Coulson. Ino took the call. He didn't have many calls in his cell phone, but they were all useful. Agent Phil Coulson. "Hello, Mr. Ino, do you have time to discuss a purchase at 8 o'clock tonight?" Ino looks at the watch on his left hand, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. "Okay, come to protect the umbrella headquarters at 8 o'clock in the evening." "Okay, goodbye, Mr. Ino." Even if Eno is not a traverser, he can know the existence of S.H.I.E.L.D. Bureau is the boss of this unlisted company according to the current umbrella power. What's more, he and the government already have the supply of special medicines. Arriving at the airport in Missouri, a private jet with an umbrella is already waiting here. The route to Manhattan, New York has already been approved. Speaking of it, standing in the umbrella headquarters in New York can also overlook Tony Stark's building in the distance. Just a Stark in the center of Manhattan, New York. The umbrella headquarters is on the river bank in Manhattan, and you can enjoy the sea view if nothing happens, and you can even see the Statue of Liberty from another angle. In the cabin of a private jet, there were only Angela and Eno at this time. Angela sat next to Eno, feeling the strength of his arm around her waist and said, "Just because you touched that flower. So you recovered your health." Not quite. Eno is getting acquainted with the strength of his hands, moving his fingers in different degrees. "My body's genes have become very powerful, and there may be more possibilities in the future. After you go back, try to see if you can parse a little bit of fur." The umbrella has its own underground laboratory and experimental base. And genes, even with umbrella technology, only touch the fur. The genetic data is too huge and too complicated. Not to mention that Eno now has its own genetic protection program. So expecting Angela to study a little fur is very satisfying. Angela nodded and grabbed Eno's gradually sliding fingers. "Don't think about these things if you are healthy." "No, you got it wrong." Eno shook his head. "I came in contact with the emotion of acquiring treasures." Angela glanced at Eno when she heard this. After the plane arrived in New York, Angela and Eno drove to the umbrella headquarters in Manhattan. In fact, there are not many people working at the headquarters. Pharmaceuticals and medical instruments mainly require workers in factories. The headquarters are mainly administrative personnel and underground laboratories. This underground laboratory is just average. The umbrella's most important underground laboratory is headquartered in California. Come to the top office of the umbrella headquarters. The transparent floor-to-ceiling windows from north to south can see Stark's A-Ring logo on one side and the Canal Sea view on the other side. So if Giuliani's nuclear bomb still bombs New York, wouldn't it have to go through his umbrella building? Gone. Wait until 8 o'clock in the evening. Collison came to the umbrella headquarters as scheduled. After being identified by the security gate, he took the elevator to the office on the top floor. Eno looked at the agent with a high hairline in front of him, sitting in a chair and said, "Healing spray, styptic powder and hyperactive medicine are used so quickly, it seems that the terrorist organization in the A-Rich area has been very active recently." Indeed it is. Even the agent's pupils shrank in Collison. He did not expect that S.H.I.E.L.D.'s external secret incident operations would be directly speculated in this way. Collison bought these potions from him last time, and there are still a lot of them. Judging from the past time, plus a few Han's current situation and plot influence. Moreover, because Tony's weapons were secretly sold to a few Han by Obadiah Stine, it seems that the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents and the FBI have lost a lot of money. Snapped. Eno snapped his fingers and said, "Okay, no problem, happy cooperation." Coulson stood up with a smile. "Happy cooperation, Mr. Eno." After the transaction was over, Carlson said a few words and left the umbrella building. He walked into the car and began to take out his cell phone to send a message to Chief Fury. Goal. Eno went to Missouri suddenly from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. for a total of 8 hours, and returned to the umbrella building that afternoon. The purpose of this trip is unknown, but I feel good in spirit. And in just a few words, we can infer the situation on the front line of A's rich sweat. That's right. It is true that Collison came to purchase. But it is also true to check that Eno suddenly disappeared. Eno suddenly disappeared on a private jet with a Red Umbrella security member in the morning. It's impossible for S.H.I.E.L.D. to know such a fanfare action. And that's a member of the Red Umbrella security. All retired soldiers and sophisticated semi-elite members. It is impossible for S.H.I.E.L.D. Bureau not to pay attention. After Collison sent the message, the director over there replied, "Continue to note that Umbrella is a company that has not been listed for 100 years. And all the family inheritors from generation to generation have young but exaggerated mature minds." After reading the message, Collison put away the mobile phone dedicated to the agent. He sat in the driver's seat and looked at the Umbrella building thinking. If it weren't for Umbrella family members, they have the only peculiar genetic disease in the world. No one knows whether that is good or bad for the United States. Watching Agent Carlson drive away. According to the current movement of A. Fuhan, Tony's plot should be about to begin. Before long, Tony will go to A. Fuhan to sell weapons. But correspondingly, the Mark I will be born there. There is no need for Eno to remind Tony that you have to be careful. Tony, don't go. Although he and Paz and Tony have met many times, you think it is based on Tony's character. Will he listen to these? If Tony of Iron Man 1 could listen to these words, he would not be the bohemian Tony Stark. Back at the office seat, Eno handled the mailbox files normally in the past. Suddenly a Stark email address file appeared in front of Eno. Click to open. Mr. Eno, this is Tony Stark's secretary, Virginia Paz. I want to buy some unique health maintenance medicines for Tony. You know, he stayed in the laboratory for 1 day, and his body has been in a sub-healthy state. And yesterday I dealt with the domestic garbage used by a reporter in the evening for him. Although I shouldn't say these things, I hope you can understand his state and recommend some drugs. Looking at this email, Eno's mouth smiled unkindly. Is Tony a bit imaginary? Paz has come to ask for some special medicine. The sub-health in the laboratory may be fake. Lovingly applaud with reporters, fearing that the body is weak is true. Because of government tenders and conferences, Eno, Paz and Tony have met many times. Just when Eno just wanted to reply. Jingling bell. Eno's cell phone rang. Look at the number. See who is here. Tony Stark. As soon as the phone was connected, Tony's voice came out over there. Hi, Eno, the email that Pepper just sent. That's not true, you know, I'm only in my 30s, I'm very strong, and... Okay, I understand. Eno quickly interrupted Tony's nagging. You are fine, I just recommend some health products for you, right? Yes, that's right, Tony said in agreement. Pepper was in a bad shape that day. As you know, it's impossible for a person to stay at his peak all the time. Haha, Eno couldn't help laughing. Wait, what do you mean by this laugh? I don't think you believe me yet. Tony immediately decided to say, I suggest we make an appointment for a car model party for longer than anyone else. But you don't seem to be an adult. Am I doing this to ruin a child? Tony was just chatting non-stop, and Pepper's voice came from beside him. What are you talking about? Is Eno an adult? I became Mr. Tony Big Poop 3 months ago. Eno tilted his feet on the table, listening to Pepper wanted to hit Tony on the phone and said. At the same time, I like my Angela very much, and those car models may not be clean. Tony heard a brief exchange with Pepper and continued, well, that's a shame this party. But I'm curious that people in your family seem to like women who are completely their own for the first time. Are you like that? As soon as Tony finished speaking, Pepper couldn't help but want to educate Tony. Eno smiled after listening. Who doesn't like a girl who belongs to her completely? Don't tell me that you like the one in the arms of others, so if I tell you about your Playboy name, do I have to add a new name? Wait, I never had this hobby. Tony quickly refused. And I don't think the name Playboy fully expresses myself. I have never forced any girls, they are all brought up by themselves. Just after Tony finished speaking, Pepper couldn't help but grab the phone and said. Mr. Eno is here. The recommended medicine is ready and an email notification will be sent. I will ask someone to bring a bank card to pick it up. Okay. After speaking, Pepper hung up the phone. Marbury Seaview Mansion in L. California. Pepper hung up the phone and questioned Tony, what are you talking about with a young adult? Party, car model. Do you think he is only 18 years old in his heart? Tony said as he walked towards the bottom laboratory. Eno is the boss of an unlisted company. And in the form of a semi-monopoly, it controls many cutting-edge pharmaceuticals and medical instruments around the world. His Umbrella Hospital headquarters in New York has a lot of high-level government personnel for treatment and a deep relationship. I also heard that they are carrying out genetic engineering projects recently. Do you know what this concept is? Tony looked at Pepper seriously. If it succeeds, people's lifespan will easily exceed 100 years. Physical fitness is increased by at least 50% or doubled. A small wound can heal within 24 hours every other day. It's more likely that each individual can approach the current social elite level. But of course it's not up to my level of intelligence, is it, Jarvis? Jarvis. That's right, sir. Pepper is used to Tony's sudden change of style. But Pepper obviously wants to say another thing. Then you are leading him to damage now. Pepper followed Tony to the basement and said, Eno has been in charge of the company for several years since his father and mother passed away. But in society, he only brought Angela to the event. The outside world has never heard anything about his possible playboy. So you mean I am a playboy? Tony looked at Pepper. Isn't it you who brought me to the event? Tony, if Eno wasn't a family genetic disease, he might be the same as me. When he said this, Tony immediately felt that it was wrong. I mean, it's possible, not absolute, I don't mean it targeted. Oh no, Pepper held his forehead helplessly. You are simply helpless, then you just wait for your body to be destroyed by yourself. After speaking, Pepper turned angrily and walked away quickly. Hey Pepper. Tony looked at Pepper who had left, and reluctantly picked up a tool from the side and shrugged his shoulders. Well, I said the wrong thing again, I have always been like this. The screen returns to the umbrella building. Eno looked at the secretly opened door outside the office and said, Where did you start listening? Angela opened the door and walked in, from the time you laughed. She put the DNA collection equipment brought out from the basement on the desk in her hand. Eno put her arms on her lap amidst Angela's slight exclamation and asked, Does that object to some of what I said? Angela watched someone recover and did something strange and said, Did I oppose you in the years since graduation to the umbrella? Angela's parents died on the battlefield. So Angela also hopes that more people who have been injured by wars and diseases can be redeemed through medicine. Learning medicine can't save the Blue Star person, Lou. Facing the olive branch of the umbrella when she graduated, Angela agreed without hesitation. What's more, the umbrella company provided financial assistance during her schooling. But what she didn't expect at the time was, she not only gave her knowledge to the umbrella in the future. Now even people are taken by the umbrella boss, Eno. Lose knowledge and lose oneself. Looking at Angela in his arms, Eno's lips pressed gently. After a while, Angela stood up from Eno's arms and wiped the wetness of her lips without leaving a trace. It's very late. Collect samples and put them on the laboratory instruments. Eno nodded and rolled up the sleeves of his wrists. At the same time, Angela first picked up the cotton swab to collect the DNA tissue shedding from his mouth. Then draw a little bit of his blood through the needle. Receive the samples in the box. Angela kissed Eno on the cheek. I will put the sample on the instrument first. The automatic collection of the instrument can run by itself at night. So just come and look at the computer data the next day. At the same time, after Angela left, Eno opened the dark web. He wanted to see if there was any news about Banner on the dark web. But there is no doubt that in the vast internet sea, to find the news of Bannerhawk is like looking for a needle in a haystack. A few months ago, Lieutenant General Thaddeus Ross broke out in an armed conflict in the suburbs. The Hulk timeline has been shortened a bit, but it is still after Iron Man 2. Later, Eno, who got the news, knew that Hulk was born. At this time Banner should calm down and hide in a certain area of B West. And he is looking for calm methods and the possibility of healing himself. After seeing no search news, Eno shook his head. It seems that blood can only be collected in the battle between Hulk and Hatred. After a while, Angela came out of the underground laboratory to Eno's office on the top floor. Are you going to work overtime? Eno. Looking at Angela who was leaning against the door, Eno closed his laptop and stood up and walked out of the office. I hate working overtime the most. Eno's place is definitely not in the company, but in a 2-story villa not far from the company, 2 kilometers away. Usually 2 people can walk from home to the company on foot. But tonight, because of his health, Eno, who wanted to unlock knowledge, homonymous directly asked Angie to drive the sports car back to the villa. On the road, Angie drove the car and asked without squinting, is genetic engineering really going to start? It is very likely to lose money. If you lose it, you lose it. Eno clasped his head in his hands and looked at the scenery outside the car window. The family has set this project as a goal for generations, and I also have new goals to achieve. purpose, may I know? Angie drove the car. Eno looked at the crowd of people outside the window and said, if I say that in a few years there will be a purple sweet potato essence who wants to snap his fingers and kill half of the creatures in the universe, do you believe it? Angela heard it, but didn't rush to reply. Although this is impossible in her worldview. But this is what Eno said again. After hesitating, Angela asked, is this still in your dream? Just take it as it is. With that, the car reached its destination. Eno pulled the car door and got off, and the two-story villa in front of him was the temporary home for the two of them. In this golden area of Manhattan, New York, the two-story villas with yards are the existence that most people can't even look up to. As Angela stepped forward, she unlocked the fingerprint lock. Eno directly picked up the princess from behind in her exclamation. The two smashed into the bed again. Looking at Angela's smooth shoulders, Eno put his hands behind his head and looked at the ceiling and said, the day after tomorrow I'm going to Malai Exedu, this time you are at home and wait for me to come back. You just got healthy and you want to run around. Angela suddenly turned around and said anxiously, and it's still Malai dumb, do you know how much your life is worth on the black market? Know what, I must go this time. It is impossible to avoid poison, and its power bonus may not be great. But its function is too powerful. Okay, Angela looked at Eno, and said loosely, more people with Red Umbrella security members. Since Eno is going to go, there must be his reasons, and it is already his decision. Because of the semi-monopoly of the Umbrella's cutting-edge pharmaceutical industry and high-end medical equipment. The head value of Eno, the Umbrella boss, is not low. Everyone knows that umbrella companies that are not listed are passed on from generation to generation in the form of a family. And every member of the family suffers from that kind of strange disease. Killing him is tantamount to the direct collapse of the umbrella company. It also means that more than half of the cakes in the pharmaceutical market are directly emptied. In this case, too many colleagues with umbrellas want Eno's life. Anything else after the day after tomorrow? Angela picked up the phone, looked at the memo and said, the civilian therapeutic spray will be officially sold in 1 week. There will be a press conference at that time. After all, this medicine should also monopolize all wound treatment medicines. Although Angela is one of the members of the laboratory, under normal circumstances she will also serve as Eno's secretary. As for the civilian treatment spray, it is a weakened version of the military special treatment spray. Now it has just begun to produce civilian grades. It has the functions of sterilizing, cleaning, activating surrounding cells and promoting tissue repair. Therefore, it is expected that the birth will monopolize all medicines that are not serious injuries. Eno takes a look at the evolutionary progress of system genes. Gene phagocytic system. Gene ability. Tension 1% plus. Okay, it didn't move. It seems that to evolve this gene really requires more energy. For the time being, only relying on the evolution of biological energy naturally produced in the body is just a drop in the bucket. But even so, the excess fat in Eno's body has been completely absorbed. Only the streamlined muscles on the body are left. Look, Angela's hands are still sticking to her stomach. The next day, sleeping Eno opened his eyes and stood up directly from the bed. Angela next to her opened her eyes in a daze, seeing her full of energy. Eno muttered. Tossing so late last night and still so energetic, don't become a playboy like Tony Stark. As Eno's genes become stronger and stronger, no matter which aspect will be strengthened, Angela also knows this aspect. Eno walked to the floor-to-ceiling window, looked at his streamlined muscles and exclaimed. Gene evolution is worthy of nature's choice. It will only move in the best direction. Also, Eno looked back at Angela who closed his eyes again and said, whether I will become Tony or not, it depends on your efforts, Angela. Genes, everything in biology are produced by it. Your character, your appearance, your strength, your agility, your thinking, etc. It's all determined by genes. He is evolving all the time even according to the environment, although it is only very small. If it is a gene that grows naturally, most of them will evolve towards better aspects, not the kind of creatures that artificially interfere. The creatures that have evolved wrongly will naturally be extinct by nature. Think about the genetic organisms in major movies and TV shows. In the final analysis, they have only undergone a certain amount of artificial and destructive intervention. Then let the genes evolve to get the kind of ugly creatures. If you want to completely control your genes, that is already at the level of gods. A few hours later, Eno was sitting in his office eating a sandwich. Angela was in the underground laboratory processing the data report from yesterday's instrument all night. Tony's medicine has just been taken by Harpy, his driver and bodyguard, at the front desk of the company. Before leaving, he asked the front desk to convey to himself a sentence from Tony: "Go out for a drink if you have time." Well, it seems that Tony's Iron Man 1 plot is about to begin. However, according to Tony's character, he wouldn't be able to listen even if he predicted the danger in advance. Even if I said that, I would make myself a commotion when the time comes. Since I am a pharmaceutical company, I shouldn't get into trouble in these areas. Moreover, it was also clearly stated in Fulian 4 that each of his actions now is a new future. Even if the current Eno can go back to the past, the time at this time has always been in the past. What has happened cannot be changed, it has happened forever. Jingling bell. At this time, the landline on Eno's desk rang. It was from Angela. After connecting, "Eno, come to the laboratory, your genes are so powerful." Hang up the phone. Eno got up from his chair, turned and walked to a separate elevator next to the bookcase. It leads directly to the underground laboratory, and the underground laboratory also has an escape route. Coming to the basement, this is Angela's exclusive laboratory. For the time being, she will be temporarily transferred to other assistants when she is alone or busy. Angela was sitting in front of the computer and saw Eno coming and quickly said, "The equipment in the laboratory didn't actually run for long last night. After the first surface scan, as soon as you reached the second level of in-depth analysis, all your genetic cells started self-destructive behavior." Angela watched Eno trying to express the situation at the time. They all seem to have self-consciousness, they are all a collective, for your collective. Once they are in danger, knowing that they are independent will start to self-destruct without hesitation. So, we can only observe, not study. The computer monitor in front of Angela has real-time monitoring images from last night. It clearly shows the collective self-destructive behavior of Eno's cells during the second step. Eno nodded. "Anything else to find? Tell me about it all." "Yes." Angela nodded, controlling the computer screen to another energy monitoring screen and saying, "Even if your cell is separated from you, it will receive energy supply from unknown channels. I guess this may be energy supplied by a quantum channel, and it will continue to supply energy until it destroys itself." Looking at the data on the monitor, Eno wanted to try if he could control the cells that had been separated from him. "Angela, take a little more cell tissue and look at it with an electron microscope." "Okay." Angela got up and took a fingernail-sized object and pierced Eno's finger. "Then push the button from the back of that little thing to place the sample on the template of the electron microscope. Next, watch the two watching the cells through the monitor." Eno looked at the cells on the monitor, and the secret path in his heart that escaped from the body all self-destructed. Next moment, the cells on the monitor directly release all energy and all die. Angela looked at the dead cells on the monitor in shock. Then he reacted and looked at Eno surprised. "You can control them?" Eno nodded and confirmed. "In this way, that's right. Angela, then we can cultivate organisms from your cell source code, or use your cells for genetic engineering." Angela said excitedly, "Even if we artificially interfere to cultivate the wrong creature, you can just let it die. Just look at the current situation where Eno can control the life and death of its own cells. The organisms cultivated through Eno cells should also be controlled by Eno. But, I don't want to create creatures, I want to evolve creatures." Eno looked at Angela and said, "I want to make organisms evolve and create biotechnology." Even at the top level of the universe, the concept of soul cannot be resolved. What is the source of the soul of living things? The future of the created creature is far from the future of the evolved creature, and the future is more and more long-term. The soul is the first level. No matter how many ordinary creatures, it's not as good as an elite unit or a hero unit. Trash fish will always be trash fish. On the cutting-edge battlefield, the comparison is only the lowest level, and the comparison of hero units is the most important. Biotechnology. Angela muttered these words silently. External biological armor. This is just one of them. Eno took a notebook, then took a pen to draw. If genes are everything living beings, then we will not be able to create a completely genetically evolved creature for the time being. But we can first cultivate biotech armor that covers the body surface or symbiosis. For example, Kaisa can evolve to activate the skin. Next, there are two more items in my mind, Valkyrie and Angels. They are two projects, but they can also be regarded together as Valkyrie Angels. But these have to wait until I come back from Malai Shidum. Without the venom, it would be difficult to create biotech armor outside of the symbiotic body. Angela looked at the outer wings and armor drawn on Eno's draft paper. Infinite shock, admiration, and admiration surged in my heart. These biotechnologies are too advanced, but they feel reasonable. If it takes a lot of resources to create a batch of ugly or a large number of creatures, it is better to increase the amount and use the same resources to build a hero unit. Angela watched Eno finish drawing the draft paper and threw the pen aside. You went to Malai Exadu because there is an important goal to complete this genetic project. Very important. Eno just nodded. Before finishing speaking, Angela stood up and sneaked Eno and covered his lips. After a while, Angela said separately, "Be careful." Looking at Angela with deep concern in his eyes, Eno put her in his arms and patted her on the back. "Don't worry. Venom's ability is far more weak than in the movie. It can be said that if the problem of venom substance conversion can be overcome, then this symbiosis can weaken the weakness of ultrasound and flame. After all, everyone is afraid of ultrasound and flames, but the venom is even more restrained." Eno picked up the little thing that had just taken the cell, took it again and handed it to Angela. "You first observe the recorded data. When the day after tomorrow I come back from Malai Exadu, I will do another comparison." Yeah, Angela took the cell sample. Eno took the elevator back to the top office. To go to Malaysia, soldiers from the Red Umbrella Department are needed temporarily. The head of the Red Umbrella Department is now an ordinary person named Jason. He is an orphan and grew up with funds from the Umbrella Foundation. He has been trained in the Red Umbrella Department of the Umbrella since he was a child. Eno dialed Jason's phone. "Tomorrow, the private plane to Mare Exadu is ready. This time you stay to protect the headquarters." This is, even if there are many questions, Jason still chose to do his own thing. Hang up the phone. Jingle bell. Eno's cell phone rang. Picking up the phone, Tony Stark called. Line connected. "Hi, Eno, I received your medicine, but I think you should have mismatched it." "Oh, really?" Eno took out from the pen holder next to him and kept the pen in his hand. "I don't think there is a problem. The problem that Xiaojiao told me yesterday seems to be very serious." Wait a minute. Tony heard footsteps, and then there was the sound of the box opening. "I would like to ask, are Qiangshan pills and Bushan paste, the medicine left over by your family in the last century, sure to strengthen your body? Although this thing works well up to now, I don't need these, I'm going to throw it away." Puff through. The sound of rubbish entering the bin sounded. Eno turned the pen and said indifferently, "As long as you don't pick it up again, or let the little pepper see it again." As soon as Eno finished speaking, Tony's voice sounded from Little Pepper. "My God, you threw the medicine that Eno gave you." "Tony, why can't I throw it? I don't need this. Do you want this thing on both sides of my back waist?" Obviously Little Pepper picked up the medicine again and put it on the table and said, "Okay, let's not talk about it. Your private jet has been waiting for you for 4 hours. When on earth did you leave for Fuhan?" Then Tony's natural voice came from Eno's phone. "If the private jet is not waiting for me, then why should I buy it?" That's right, it's really true. But the problem is not here, okay. The question is where Tony is going and what to do. And many more. Suddenly, Eno remembered what Xiaojiao said just now, that Tony is going to a Fuhan. "Eno, Tony, the love between you can wait until you hang up before talking. If you have something, I suggest you handle it yourself first." "Wait, Tony, why do you think we are in love rather than quarreling?" "Well, there is a saying that is said." Eno turned the pen in his hand. "Fighting is love, cursing is love, but it is limited to the daily emotional life, not true." Well, this is the first time I heard this sentence. Help me write down Jarvis. "Jarvis. Good sir." Hanging up the phone, Eno looked at his cell phone, then put it on the table. Iron Man is about to be born. Well, the shrapnel stripping operation can be prepared for him, so Stephen Strange will come in charge. If you are not familiar with this name, then he has another title after 9 years, Doctor Strange. That's right, he is now the chief surgeon at the Umbrella Hospital headquarters, and many government and commercial street people come to him for surgery. No way, the operation of the Umbrella Hospital is too fragrant, and Stephen is now willing to come to the Umbrella Hospital to work for money. But this is just to talk about it. Because Tony would refuse, he would not agree to the operation. Time passed in a hurry, and in the evening, with the mentality that I was the boss and I worked overtime, Eno got off work early. When I got home, I had a candlelight dinner with Angela. By the atmosphere and style at this time in the evening, the clothes on the two of them gradually became less. The next day, Angela hit hatch and sent Eno to the private airport exhausted. If you are very sleepy, why don't you let me drive by myself? Eno teased, watching Angela's mental state. Angela rolled her eyes to Eno, who had tossed herself all night. You suddenly start driving. The agent of the National Land Strategic Defense Attack and Logistics Security Bureau must investigate you. Although the clues will be seen sooner or later, it is better to have less trouble at the moment. And what department is this? The name is so long. Angela still said stiffly that she was not inferior to Eno, who possessed the power of the God gene. But I was afraid that S.H.I.E.L.D. agents would find trouble. A few minutes after Eno knocked on the phone, a member of the Red Umbrella drove the car over. Was it troublesome? Looking at Eno with a brazen smile on the corner of his mouth, Angela blushed and kicked the accelerator and quickly sent Eno to the private airport. With the sports car driving into the private airport, a private jet has already parked on the runway. Next to the ladder lowered from the plane stood 2 rows of fully armed tactical teams with a total of 12 people. They have complete ammunition, weapons, and rescue equipment, and each set costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. Hugging Angela in the car, Eno opened the door and boarded the private jet. Watching Eno's plane take off, Angela stood outside the car door and blessed silently. This time is a true trip. The odds of someone asking mercenaries to assassinate Eno from the black market for the cake is very high. This is not in the US. The protection and intelligence capabilities of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents and FBI organizations cannot go so far. Some troubles that were not necessary before will appear this time. On the private jet, Eno boringly picked up a Rubik's Cube and played with one hand. There is no way, even if it is 1% of the God gene ability, his system is recovering quickly. I worked so hard last night, but now I feel so energetic after a sleep. Now if you let him sleep on the plane, he can't sleep. And the flight will take several hours. I can only play with Rubik's Cube and play a dozen single-player games in my notebook. But at this time, the State Land Strategic Defense Attack and Logistics Support Bureau, referred to as S.H.I.E.L.D., immediately reported the incident. Agent Hill pushed open the door of the office of S.H.I.E.L.D. Director Fury. Director Fury, Eno left the U.S. on a private jet. After communicating with the FBI, he went to Mali Sidhu. At this time, the man with a one-eye mask sitting in the office chair is one of the oldest persons in S.H.I.E.L.D. He went from a low-level agent to this position, which is already the most inspirational story in S.H.I.E.L.D. Fury put his fists in front of his head, thinking about Eno's action. His sudden activities in these 3 days are much more than the accumulated activities in the past 10 years. Has the reason been found out? No, the well-built, mature-faced Hill said with a file in his arms. Since he suddenly went to Missouri the day before yesterday, he went to Mare Exodus on the 3rd day. During this time, Agent Coulson has already tried it out. Not only did he fail to test it out, but he was also speculated about the situation of a Fuhan. Fury took a deep breath, thinking about the method in his mind, and said, "Let the agents outside pay attention. If you find that Eno is in danger, you must save it. There are so many people in international organizations who want other people, no less than Tony." Understood. Hill turned and walked out holding the file. Watching Agent Hill walk out of the office, Fury rubbed his forehead with his hands. The position of the umbrella company in the United States is very important. This does not necessarily mean Eno's life is important. Instead, many top-secret formulations of cutting-edge medical equipment and medicines are in the hands of Eno. If Eno goes to Malaysia GG this time, the medicines and instruments on the market will become the final products. This will undoubtedly have a heavy blow to the United States. No, the international community will have a heavy blow. Those colleagues were happy, and a large piece of cake suddenly became vacant. But the people have worked hard. Other alternatives are either too expensive or sky high. There are even some top-secret prescriptions for this umbrella family. If the umbrella is gone, the person will be gone. Protective umbrella. The patriarchs of successive generations knew deeply that the people were used as a protective shield. The power of the people is really strong. Tony sells weapons and desperately becomes a philanthropist. Eno only needs to blow up the sparks in the haystack to sell medicine. At this time Tony, who also went to a Fuhan, was selling his set of missiles. After talking about this business of more than 500 million yuan, he will abandon Roddy and sit back home in his Matty Jeep. Then it was hijacked by terrorists sent by the Iron Overlord, Obadiah Stein. Finally Iron Man was born. The screen was switched back to Eno's private jet a few hours later. He has been flying in the sky from early morning to late afternoon. It's finally almost here now. Arrive at the airport. Red Umbrella members handed over 2 large black SUVs that had been waiting long ago. From the plane to the SUV, Eno intends to go straight to the destination where the rocket crashed. The opportunity is indispensable. Staying an extra second before swallowing the venom is an extra risk. Because someone will buy the whereabouts of Eno at a big price. And it's possible to sell Eno's path of action this time. Eno got into one of the 2 SUVs. Now I add 13 people in total. 6 of them took a car. 2 of the other 6 people sit in the front. There are 4 cars left to accompany Eno in the back carriage. Eno puts on the headset, which is the internal communication network of the 2 cars. Look at the address on the electronic screen of the car, drive directly to the destination, and move fast. Yes, it is 5 p.m., and it is already night before reaching the destination. The Venom's rocket landed at night. They have to be fast. As long as the 4 symbioses are swallowed, human normal firepower will not pose a threat to Eno. And Eno will have real combat power. Boom. The engines of 2 SUVs roared unscrupulously on the country road outside the city. And even if they have a camera, they have no scruples. Because at this time their only goal is to rush to the destination as quickly as possible. Wearing loose auspicious cloud clothing, Eno looked at the red umbrella soldier who was waiting for a while holding weapons on both sides and joked. My life is left to you, soldier. It's my pleasure, boss. X-12. They wore red laminated armor in important positions, and fiber materials were used to cover the active parts. Then cover a layer of multifunctional tactical belt or backpack. Of course, the guys inside are packed. There is not only a focusable night vision device on the helmet, but also a thermal imaging device worth tens of thousands of dollars. The equipment is fully equipped. The vehicle continued to drive, and Eno also had a quick replenishment meal with them during the time. Pickled cucumbers are not very tasty. When the time comes to night, the outside environment gradually enters the night, and Eno is about to reach his destination. But at this moment, a dazzling light shines on Eno's face through the small window of the SUV. Boss, if there is an unknown object, it will crash a few kilometers ahead. Whether it needs to be avoided, it may be dangerous. The red umbrella soldiers also reported the situation to Eno immediately. According to the conversation of the headset, Eno said, "That is the target, drive towards it at full speed." Yes, the 2 SUVs instantly increased their throttles and rushed to the target at full speed. Before long, accompanied by boom, there was a sound and explosion. The rocket crashed, but the inner protective device will save the life of the 4 symbionts inside. After a while, the 2 SUVs parked on the road less than 1 kilometer away from the crash of the spacecraft in the forest. Now I can only go down and advance on foot. Boss, do you want to stay with a team to protect you and let us find the target, or go together? Yes, be careful. Boom. The trunk doors of the 2 SUVs were opened. Then quickly jumped down the 2 groups of people with their rifles in their hands and turned their backs to the vehicles behind them to investigate the situation outside. Wait until the investigation is complete. Boss, safe. Patter. Eno jumped out of the carriage. Two groups of 12 people immediately set up a security line of defense with their backs facing Eno from all angles. A group of 13 people crossed the guardrail of the highway. Eno commanded, 2 people go to the front 30 meters to investigate, 50 meters behind to 2 people to reserve a safe place, and the others follow me to establish a line of defense. Yes. As soon as the voice fell, 4 people quickly went out in the team. The rest of the people built a line of defense around Eno. With their bodies half low, they raised their rifles, put down their night vision goggles and thermal imaging to investigate their surroundings. Then the whole is advancing towards the position where the rocket crashed. Not long after Eno's group left, 5 gray jeeps came with them. They suddenly stopped behind Eno's 2 SUVs and got out of the car and approached 30 people. And everyone has weapons, and they can be regarded as elites in the mercenary world. These people were holding rifles and quickly checked the situation of the 2 SUVs in front of them. One of them pointed to the direction where the rocket crashed. They are all bulletproof armed vehicles. Check that there are no footprints in that direction. Several people walked over with flashlights, checked outside the fence of the highway, and reported in a short while, there are at least 10 people. Hearing the news reported by his subordinates, one of the people with a scar on his face vomited out the flu in his mouth. It seems that the information given by members of the National Land Strategic Defense Attack and Logistics Support Bureau is correct. Go on, he won't worry about it in this life. The boss gave an order, and the 30th under his hand opened firearms insurance. If the Red Umbrella soldiers were all elite, they even wanted to whistle. The screen returns to Eno's side. They are slowly advancing, only the last 600 meters away from the target. At this time, boss, the night vision thermal imaging saw a total of 30 people advancing. Weapons are well equipped, but I don't wear night vision goggles for thermal imaging. But I am worried that there will be flares in the throwing equipment they carry. Eno made a decision, immediately confirmed it, and looked at the people around him. You all go to the back, free tactics and fire after gathering. Yes. The 2 people in front ran back quickly and joined the 8 people around Eno to directly support the rear. And Eno quickly went to the crash site of the spacecraft alone. The action begins. Eno and the Red Umbrella soldier were moving in completely different directions. 400 meters, 300 meters, 200 meters, da 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 da. Just as Eno was about to see the spaceship, a fierce firefight came from behind. Eno couldn't neglect and ran to the spaceship faster with his legs raised. The opponent is multiple and his own Red Umbrella soldier. In a firefight where both sides are normal people, even the elite units will die more and live less. 100 meters away, boom, suddenly bursts of flashes and continuous light sources burst out behind Eno. This is when the opposite party starts to counterattack and provide flares of vision. From this moment on, the Red Umbrella soldiers began to reduce their personnel. Hurry up! Eno looked at the damaged spaceship in front of him, and it could be swallowed immediately. 50 meters. At this time, the sound of firefighting continued. Arrived. Looking at the crashed spaceship in front of him, Eno kicked open the broken hatch. And there are 4 symbiotes in black, gray, blue, and yellow. They see humans who can board. Immediately pounce on Eno. If there is no host symbiosis for a short time, they will die. According to the plot, someone will pass by and be boarded soon. But just when they met Eno together and started quarreling over the host. Let me live together. I am the strongest. I can give you strength. It will control you. Don't believe it. Let me live together. Phagocytosis gene detected. Start to swallow. Successful swallowing. New ability. Venom 40%. 40% directly. The 4 symbiotes that were still tumbling on Eno's body just now quieted down. Their consciousness has been obliterated. Only the ability that is unified and fused by the system into a single venom is left. This is the ability. Venom is already unconscious. From now on, Eno has mastered this ability directly and completely. Squeezed his fists. Eno can feel that the power at this time has increased by more than 1 level. Use ability. Venom transforms. For an instant. The Eno, which was about to be close to 1.8 meters, was directly raised to 2.3 meters. The whole body is full of streamlined muscle lines. It can be seen at a glance that it was transformed into Ino's original figure. Only, this black, gray, blue and yellow four-color camouflage body shape is too ugly. If I can control the cells, then the color after transformation should also be able to change. Thinking of this, Ino watched the color of his arm turn into dumb black. For an instant, after Ino's transformation, the whole body of 2 meters 3 became dull black. Change the shape of the face to become a mask, no mouth, no nose, just a rectangular eyeliner and the edges and corners of the face. Another moment. Venom's original big eyes and jagged needle-like mouth all disappeared. Then it became a cold, murderous, sharp face. No nose, mouth, hair or even facial features. Some are just face shapes and rectangular eyeliner. This is the killing machine in my heart. Feeling what his body looks like now, Ino nodded in satisfaction. What is the power of 40% of the venom? Venom transformation. Breathe underwater, never get sick, regenerate a broken limb, copy any textile. Weaponization of the body, copying the environment and stealth, devouring the enemy to gain energy and memory. Immunity to mental and spiritual strikes, improve resistance to ultrasound and fire. Subvenom, vacuum survival, liquid, material possession. Wait, what is subvenom? Ino knows all the above abilities, but what is the subvenom ability? Why have you never heard of it? Subvenom ability. Combine the ability of cells and venom to differentiate into a subvenom ability to any creature. At the same time, the host's main venom has brood consciousness, which can control the life and death of the child venom with one thought. Note: too much differentiation, the ability of the main venom will decrease, please differentiate appropriately. Understood. It is to separate out a little more trash venom. At the same time, Ino can control the life and death of this sub-venom with a single thought. At this moment, boss, there is only one Red Umbrella soldier left. They have unknown special devices. Ah! Squeak. The signal was broken, and the last Red Umbrella soldier was killed. Special device. Chang. Ino's hands protruded with 2 body weaponized blades. With these 2 weapons, there is no problem in cutting off the steel. Locate the heat sensor to bring the temperature up. After the words fell, Ino's venom mask flashed red. Now it has one more capability, thermal imaging. Ino squats slightly with his legs. Whoosh! Scream. With only a hint of wind, Ino jumped onto the tree trunk ahead. Jump again. It's another tens of meters. 600, 500, 400, 350 meters. Ino saw them. Now they, even if all members of the Red Umbrella squad were killed, there were only 10 left. But why was the Red Umbrella team destroyed in this way? It shouldn't. At this time, suddenly there was no wind in the forest. After a brief calm in Ino's ears, he suddenly heard the sound of a fan and a motor. This is a drone. Ino raised his head and saw the drone floating in the sky through the lush foliage. Oh, it's you, mercenaries. At this time, the captain of their squad spit out and cursed, TMD. So many people died after borrowing such good equipment from the United States. You all grew up eating rice fields together. But it's okay, 20 less people since. A mercenary nearby stepped forward and said, I haven't found their boss yet. The target Ino may have ran deep into the forest. The captain cursed, is there a sling? Where can his body that can't even move a woman go? Go after it. Don't hide. Hurry up and chop off his head. Boom. Boss. The mini reconnaissance drone crashed. What? The thing was borrowed by the U.S. Territory Security Bureau. How did it crash? I don't know. It fell off suddenly. Ino stood on a tree trunk 50 meters away from them in the dense forest. Their conversation Ino heard clearly. And that drone was shot down by him. Use Venom's weaponization ability to separate out a little liquid dart. Directly 3 darts blasted the miniature reconnaissance drone. Now, the massacre has begun. The captain of the mercenary, I don't know. What else can you do? I do not know either. After a sudden silence. Hello, speak. At this time, the mercenary captain realized that something was wrong and hurriedly shouted in the communication channel. Hold up all the guns. What about thermal imaging? Where is the enemy? Invisible, but there is a sudden wind. For a moment, the speaker fell silent again. What is the wind? What is the wind? Are you clear about it? The mercenary captain is going crazy. Say one is dead, and now they have 8 people left. Eno does the 2 loud ones first, because these 2 people directly expose the target. In the dark night, the dumb black color on his body was originally a natural hidden color. What's more, the body surface of the venom is invisible to heat. Thermal imaging. It's useless. Continue to eject by the tree trunk. Pouch. Hand up the knife and drop. There is another guy whose corpse is separated. And they saw a dark shadow pass instantly. The mercenary captain shouted, "The thermal imaging is invisible. Are there any flares? Throw them all out." "No, it's all used up." Pouch. Again. "There are 6 left." The mercenary captain finally collapsed and shouted, "Free to fire." "Ah ah ah ah. Da 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 da. Idiot." Eno stood on the tree and looked at the idiots at his feet. Shooting at will only make homicide more convenient. Forget it, don't play anymore. The transformation ability of venom is almost familiar. Gather into a venom dart, flick it. Pouch. X5. In an instant, all the mercenaries, except for the captain, were headshot down. Because of the destruction of the central nervous system. They died quietly, simple and straightforward. Da 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 da. Click. The mercenary captain has no ammunition. Boom. Eno jumped from the trunk and fell to the ground. Monster. Monster. The mercenary captain sat on the ground, hurriedly kicking back. Eno is too vicious now. The height of 2 meters 3. The whole body is matte black streamlined body. A veil of killing intent without facial features. 2 weaponized double knives in both hands. The rectangular eyes glowed red. The captain of the mercenary drenched his pants and drew the pistol from his side leg while pushing his leg. Bang bang bang. He pulled the trigger and fired several shots. Pity. The bullet hitting Eno's body was like hitting a solid liquid co-condensed substance. Enter quietly from the front, and quietly emerge from the back. Can't carry a wave. If it weren't for the gunshots still reverberating in the woods, the mercenary captain would wonder if he fired. But he couldn't wait for him to give his shooting testimonials. Pouch. Hand up the knife and drop. The head blinded by a carrier flew up. With a trace of incomprehension, he was filled with infinite fear and the intelligence organization NEMA exploded. What kind of information does this give to Jiba? Gone. What is this monster that is more than 2 meters tall? He is so handsome and sharp, but Lao Su is dead, and he can't even publish his acceptance speech. Looking at the scattered corpses around. There are at least more than 40. Eno thought for a moment, and with a flick of his hand, more than 40 small venoms covered them. Then the more than 40 corpses disappeared quickly and gradually disappeared. They were swallowed. If you have to eat according to the previous venom, you can read the memory. But Eno only needs to digest the small venom ball and read the useful information in his mind. After sorting out the information, Eno found useful information for him. Although this group of mercenaries received orders from the black market, but that micro-reconnaissance drone was provided internally by the U.S. SHIELD Bureau. It doesn't take Eno to guess who the culprit is. Alexander Pierce. He is the minister of the World Security Council. At the same time, he is also the current leader of the paperclip project Hydra. Absorb energy. Eno takes a look at the system genes. Gene phagocytic system. Tengen 1% plus. Venom 41% plus. More than 40 corpses, only 1%. It seems that ordinary people's energy is useless, and too little. The strength is low, the system is low, the energy is low, and the conversion efficiency is low. And the god gene doesn't have a long one yet. Forget it. Eno looked up at the full moon high above his head. Let's go back to New York first, or Angela will be worried. Someone will come here in a while. Eno leapt high in the woods and then jumped into the distance. 3 steps to reach the parking place on the highway. At this time, in addition to the 2 large SUVs in front, there are also 5 Jeeps parked behind. Without hesitation, Eno turned back into a human form and sat in a Jeep at the back. Holding the steering wheel with both hands, the liquid matte black was covered from Eno's hand to the car. After a while, the entire 2 cars turned dumb black, and the visor logo behind Eno's venom transformation appeared on the doors and front of the car. Logo. This is one of the abilities, physical possession. It can increase the capacity of this substance. Use it on the weapon to increase the weapon's ability. Use it on a vehicle to increase the capacity of the vehicle. Use it on furniture. then it will look better. Rumble. Eno stepped on the accelerator. The sound of an engine comparable to a rocket sounded. It roared to provide plenty of power for this Jeep. Boom. Jeep slammed and slammed into the car in front of him. Handbrake, steering, drift. With a few dark tire tracks. The Jeep turned 365 degrees and returned to the way it had just come. After a while, he disappeared from the scene. Eno disappeared after 2 hours. The sound of da 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 da. Several searchlights in the sky shone on several vehicles at the crisis scene. It's a helicopter. And it's also a police helicopter. With the rope dropped, several full-service special soldiers jumped from the helicopter. One of them was still wearing a suit with a pistol in his hand. It was the familiar, somewhat bald Agent Coulson. Several people quickly checked the vehicle. Then I saw the traces outside the guardrail and quickly went down to search. But apart from the bullet holes and flares in the trunk, and behind a pile of firearms, there was nothing. There are no bodies. There are only stale weapons and ammunition. Agent Coulson raised his flashlight and walked in the forest. Sudden, he saw the wreckage of the drone ahead. Squat. Coulson felt a little familiar with this, but he still didn't know what kind of familiarity it was. Holding a bright flashlight, Coulson took out his phone and took a few photos. Then take a few more pictures of the remains of the battlefield and weapons and ammunition. Agent, we didn't find alive or dead, only these weapons and ammunition. The captain of this group of Malaysia Dumb operations team came to Coulson to express the situation. Coulson thought about it for a while and decided to say, look again, if you haven't found it, then close the team. I'll report it. Thanks for your hard work. After the squad leader left, Coulson looked at the bullet holes in the trunk to guess the situation of the firefight at that time. And there are trees in a certain area that have been fired or intensively fired. But what Coulson didn't know was that the area he looked at was the area where the mercenary captain ordered free fire. At that time, there was a mess, and the shooting of several rifles caused the surrounding trees to be riddled with holes. After taking a good picture of the battlefield, Coulson walked out of the forest and came to the side of the road. He first sent the picture before calling the number of Director Fury of S.H.I.E.L.D., Director Fury. Director Fury, I arrived at the battlefield, but I didn't find Eno, and there was even nothing on the battlefield here. There are only leftover weapons and ammunition and the destroyed battlefield in the riddled woods. The top office of S.H.I.E.L.D. Fury looked at the battlefield photos on the computer monitor. The surrounding trees were all battered. But there was no corpse or wreckage. There are no living people. Where did they go? Obviously the footprints are there. And there are at least 30 to 40 people. But now there are no even the most basic pieces of broken clothes. How to check this special? Where did Eno go? If he is not seen in a few days. The boss of the umbrella company is missing. Who knows what social chaos will be that day? A bunch of people armed with guns for medicine. Pharmaceutical colleagues made a big shot in order to grab the cake. This Eno's brain has a problem suddenly running so far. Boom. Director Fury's office was suddenly pushed aside vigorously. Agent Hill walked in quickly and said, the FBI notified that the latest news of Eno has been found. He is flying from the KT-1569 flight from Malaysia to the airport in New York. Fury, what the hell, haven't they all disappeared? Fury looked at Hill and confirmed, how many people? Hill nodded and confirmed, one, only him. Let Coulson come back first, and let them finish the rest. Fury hung up Coulson's phone in twos or twos, and stood up directly from the drawer, picked up the pistol bag and put it on him. Picking up another leather jacket and going out, he said to Hill, get ready, and ask them to prepare their vehicles tomorrow to go to the airport in New York. Hill nodded, holding the file and said, what reason? Escort home. It was already the next morning that Eno arrived in New York. Sitting on an ordinary flight, he used the power of venom to slightly change the shape of his face so that he would not be recognized. He dropped out of high school and went home to take charge of the company, and he was 18 years old for people who had achieved this level of umbrella. The recognition of this face in society is still very high. And this face is still pretty. Without the venom ability, sticking two small things on the chin to turn into a square face, Eno estimated that he could not even get on the plane. These facial features can be blocked by the crowd at the airport. With the flight of several hours, Eno sat at the window of the flight and looked at the scenery outside. So as he landed, he certainly saw a few black shield cars parked outside the runway. Oh, it's time to show off your acting skills. Eno tidied his clothes a little, and stroked his sleeves. As the flight's plane landed on the runway and slowly stopped, Eno also revoked the Venom's changed facial features. As the crowd got off the plane, Eno watched Fury brought Hill over and proactively greeted him. Hi Director Fury, the weather is good today, and your blindfolds are still so handsome. Fury walked over with a smile and patted Eno on the shoulder and said, let's go to the cafe for a drink. It hits it off. Marinated eggs and Eno went to a coffee shop outside the New York airport. Wait until Eno arrives at this cafe. He knew at a glance that this was the information point of the shield. Egg. Otherwise, how could there be no one at this point in time? It is estimated that they were all evacuated by shield people. Enter the coffee shop. Fury and Eno chose a position to sit down. Other members of shield, including Hill, stayed outside. What to drink? I invite you today. Fury waved his hand to indicate that all the coffee he drank today counts as his. Iced coffee will do. Don't be too bitter. I don't like to drink bitter things. After Eno finished speaking, he took out a cell phone and pressed it. He was texting Angie to tell her that he was back. Fury looked at Eno and asked curiously, can I ask who to send it to? Angela. After sending the text message, Eno puts his phone on the table. Oh, I know, Fury said with an expression that I understand, your little girlfriend. Jingling bell. As soon as Fury finished speaking, Eno's cell phone rang. Eno reached out and turned the phone over to take a look. Angela called. I'll take the call. Remind Fury, and Eno answered the call. Eno, where are you? Not hurt, right? I'll pick you up. Listening to Angela's urgent voice, Eno smiled heartily, looked around and said, you can come directly to the cafe at XXX outside the New York airport. Toot, toot. Angela hung up after speaking. Eno put down the phone again, looked at the salted egg in front of him and said, now you said she is coming, but it should be a girlfriend, not a little girlfriend, because I don't have a big girlfriend. Chapter 11. Of course she can come. Fury was talking while watching Eno at the same time. He watched Eno wearing loose auspicious clothes, temporarily unable to observe his physical condition. This is not loose clothing that Eno deliberately wears. But he has worn this way for more than 10 years. It is different from Marvel or these superheroes in the United States. He doesn't like to wear tights. But he really likes Angela putting herself in a tights at night, cough cough cough. The topic is off the track. At this time, the shield waiter brought the coffee up and put it in front of Fury and Eno. Eno picked it up and tasted it. It tastes good. It's neither bitter nor sweet, and it comes with a bit of mellow iced coffee. Thank you, sir. The shield waiter thanked him and left. Fury took a sip too, but apparently absent-minded. He finally got into the main topic and said, Eno, intelligence shows that you took 12 soldiers with red umbrellas to Marazi-Dum, but now it's a member of the Red Umbrella Security, not a soldier. Eno put the cup down and corrected. Then it shows that you brought 12 Red Umbrella Security members to Mare Exodus, but why only came back to you? I mean only you are back now, where are they? Fury avoided the two topics of the spaceship crash and the forest shootout. Rather, it directly talks about the most important link. Why only you are back? He can only speak through Eno himself. Forcing Eno to say that this kind of thing is impossible. His shield does not have such a big right to the umbrella. Even if Eno is forced to say here, the president over there is about to dismiss him from office. How can you infringe on the private rights and freedom of my boss, a major tax company in the United States? So in fact, it's okay for Eno to leave. Eno looked up for a while, then looked at the salted egg seriously and said, they are disarmed and returned to the field. I believe you a ghost. The stewed egg spit in his heart. If these elite soldiers are all disarmed and returned to the field, what about your 12 men's equipment, which adds up to a small $1 million? Please don't give this kind of good deeds to the West Asian government next time. Tell me where I left it. I'll pick up the garbage. Thank you. Fury looked at the boy Eno who could be said to be in front of him and couldn't help it. Compared to middle-aged people, old people, or social people, Eno is obviously more difficult to deal with than the previous few people combined. He is always incomprehensible in this person's heart. Even if you see it, his face and eyes may be deceiving you. There is really no way. Ferry rubbed his forehead with both hands, and said helplessly, we want to know what happened to you over there. If there is danger, S.H.I.E.L.D. and the United States may be your strongest shields. Do you understand what I mean? Eno nodded, took another sip of iced coffee and said, I understand. But this is the truth, you can find it if you don't believe it. Now besides finding the weapons they used, what else can S.H.I.E.L.D. find? Even fingerprints are impossible. They are wearing tactical gloves. There can be no fingerprints. From that night, the 12 soldiers of the Red Umbrella no longer exist. The world has evaporated. Bittern had a headache when he heard these words. He really had nothing to do, but fortunately he was okay with Natasha. At this time, la 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 la, there was the sound of brakes at the entrance of the cafe. Then came the sound of slamming doors and fast running. Accompanied by the cafe door was opened. Angela saw Eno as soon as she came in. Wearing white lab clothes, she threw herself into Eno's arms like a swallow coming home. But what she didn't know was that Angela's movement was squinted in Fry's eyes and she noticed that it was wrong. And Eno obviously also knew Angela's excitement. He was deliberately knocked out by Angela very far, and fell, weakly, on the sofa chair in the coffee shop. Angela pressed on Eno, and when she saw Fury, she knew that her movements almost exposed Eno's physical fitness. Fortunately, Eno played well. Angela stood up immediately and helped Eno up. Sorry, I'm so excited. It's okay. Eno waved his hand in cooperation. Seeing the situation of the two of them, Fry's squinted eyes gradually relaxed, but he still won't give up this opportunity, and will take a good look at the video later. Eno sat on the sofa again with one arm around Angela's waist. At this time, Agent Hill also walked in and sat across from Eno. Do you have anything else to ask? Eno left the last sip of coffee to Angela, and she picked up Eno's cup. Eno continued, if not, I'll go back and make friends with Angela. Eno hasn't finished talking yet. After finishing her last sip of coffee, Angela stretched the two fingers end to Eno's waist. Hill smiled enviously when he saw Eno and Angela. The marinated eggs suffered tons of damage. If you don't want to say anything, nothing will happen. Fury took the coffee and drank it in one sip. Sudden. Jingling bell. Fury's cell phone rang. He picked it up and took a look. The phone number of the Intelligence Bureau. I'll answer the phone. Fury greeted Eno and walked aside with his cell phone. Then he connected the phone where he thought Eno could not hear. Director Fury, Tony is missing. Lieutenant Colonel Roddy reported the incident. Tony, Fury said in surprise, and he immediately felt that his voice was a little loud. He looked back at the two Eno who were still flirting and talking with Hill who was eating dog food. How could Tony disappear? Isn't he protected by a heavily armed army? Where's Lieutenant Colonel Roddy? It is reported that Lieutenant Colonel Roddy was thrown into another car by Tony, and Tony made a car alone and left. Sheet. Fury cursed secretly, hung up the phone. Tony's father is the founder of S.H.I.E.L.D. And his father left Tony with a secret that no one knows until now. And now Tony is extremely important. His arms and weapons are very helpful to the army. Fury put away his phone, walked to Eno and said, there is still something in the game, I'm leaving now. Good trip to Fury. Eno sat in the chair and said goodbye to Fury. Hill also followed Fury, sitting in the car of S.H.I.E.L.D. Fury said to the co-pilots Hill, Tony is missing, go back to the bureau to see the information. Hill nodded ably, without saying a word. By the way, has Agent Natasha sent to the Umbrella headquarters? Ferry drove the car and looked at Hill to confirm. Because of the sudden movement of the Umbrella and the unknown trends today. Fury was very fortunate to let Natasha go on the Umbrella mission yesterday. Hill looked at his watch and said, she just applied for the position of Secretary of Eno at the Umbrella headquarters on September 15 this morning. It was reviewed by Angela and there is no problem. Fury nodded. Let Natasha collect as much information as possible. It's best to find out what Eno is doing today. Hill nodded again, and at the same time sent a mission message to Natasha. The screen returns to the coffee shop on Eno's side. Angela resisted the doubt and walked out of this cafe with audio monitoring. Wait for the arrival of the car. Angela finally asked, isn't it hurt? No. Is it all right? Of course it's okay. Eno stroked the girl who was a few years older than him, woman Lu Hai. Lightly kissed her on the forehead and said, not only am I fine, but I have gained a lot. But wait until we get to the laboratory. Angela nodded and started the sports car's engine. There was a roar. The two went to the umbrella headquarters first in the car. After dozens of minutes, Angela drove the car to the destination. After getting out of the car, the two walked into the lobby. Eno ignored the lobby, and took Angie directly into the elevator to get to the top office. But as soon as the two entered the elevator, a graceful figure followed in the elevator. She is wearing a short leather skirt, slim top, and big red wavy hair. His lips were rubbed with a color number that a straight man didn't know. But isn't it Natasha, or Black Widow? Why did she come to my company? My company does not have Tony's secrets like Iron Man 2. I am a little pharmaceutical company and a company that sells medical equipment. Angela also saw Natasha, and at the same time saw Eno's expression. She explained, this is what I gave you today. She explained, this is the secretary I'm looking for you today, otherwise I have been in the laboratory and could not do well as a secretary. Hi, boss. Natasha smiled at Eno and raised her hand to say hello. Ding. At this time, the elevator reached the top floor. Angela approached the door and walked out first. Then Natasha wanted to go out too. But Eno's hand was in the front column, almost frightened Natasha to pick up the hand in front of her and hug it. She looked at Eno who was blocking her. Keep smiling, waiting for the answer. At the same time, I thought to myself, do you want to sneak me in front of your girlfriend? But you are fired. Go to the front desk on the first floor and ask where the finance department is, and then leave after receiving unemployment benefits. Drop. Eno was also very polite and gentleman to help her press the elevator button on the first floor. Then go out and press the button of close outside. Bye. The action was done in one go. Soon Natasha was standing in the elevator, and she was stupefied until the elevator reached the first floor and opened the door before reacting. I'm on the job. I was fired. So fast. Get out of the elevator sluggishly. Natasha still couldn't believe it. Natasha, the top agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., failed within one day after accepting the mission. Click. Unbelievable. Natasha even squeezed the ballpoint pen in her hand. What do you want to say this time? Go out of the gate of the umbrella headquarters. Natasha raised her head and looked at the roof of the umbrella headquarters. The entire roof is the office territory of Target Eno. Only Eno and Angela can go up. She, who was originally a secretary, can also go in. But now she was fired. Natasha went to find a place to sit down in the park next to her. Then took out the agent's mobile phone to check Eno's information. That's right, she doesn't believe in evil. Ready to find another chance to try it. The failure of this kind of mission is not allowed in Natasha's life. Besides, S.H.I.E.L.D. cannot reveal her secret agent information. Now no information about her can be found anywhere in the country. There is no reason Eno would know that she was an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Continue to check the information carefully. Eno, male, 18 years old and 3 months old. Appearance. Look at Eno's photos from childhood to school and then to big. Natasha did not expect that a very handsome person would actually fire someone like this. Life resume. XXXXXX. Read the information again. Natasha put her phone away irritably and covered her face with her hands. This person is actually an iron houseman. All day long, as long as there is nothing wrong, Eno is either in the umbrella building or with Angela. There are actually only 5 motives for traveling. Angela goes to work with him. Angela goes to work with him. Angela goes to travel or play with him. Angela goes with him for company business activities, and the last one. It is Missouri and Mary that Eno suddenly went to in the past 2 days. How do you let me get in touch with this? Natasha rubbed her head. Basically, Angela will accompany Eno every time she travels. It's really something, secretary. It's all right, secretary. There is no chance of contact at all. In the end, Natasha could only dial the number of the director of the egg. Director Fury, the mission failed. This tone is the same as who owes her a world. Agent Natasha, what are the details of the incident? Natasha glanced at her watch. On September 15th this morning, I entered the position of Eno's secretary. That's it, now I am fired. Does the target know who I am? Up to now, Natasha has begun to wonder if Ino has any internal information about S.H.I.E.L.D. Impossible. Fury refused. Your information is only in paper. It is impossible to be stolen but not discovered. Natasha was silent here. Fury thought for a while and then said, it may be that the target is suspicious and the threat is directly eliminated. It may be. Charming is also an invisible threat to him. Natasha, Fury said again. Don't count the mission failure first, you will perform other missions first, and I will talk about Ino later. Now Tony is still alive and dead. Natasha. Yes. The screen shifts to the top office of the Umbrella building. Angela looked at Ino's actions in one go and asked, the secretarial skills are very good. Moreover, the body is still very good. If I am unwell, I mean when I am unwell, do you know what I mean? Ino stretched out his hand, squeezed Angela's cheek, and said softly. I still look down on her, you are the perfect one. Angela's face flushed instantly. She was a little bewildered and covered her cheek with a document. Ha ha. Looking at Angela's rare shyness, Ino smiled happily and took her hand. Go to the lab first, I have something good to share with you. Take Angela into the office, and head to her private laboratory in the elevator unique to the office. This is the only way to the underground laboratory. Drop. Reach the laboratory below. Ino pulled Angela aside, looked at her and said, look at my ability first. Venom transforms. In a blink of an eye. The 180 centimeters Ino becomes a 230 centimeters Venom. Carry a murderous visor. A burly and slender body. But Angela didn't seem to move at all. Aren't you surprised? Surprised. Angela nodded. But it's Ino's change, so I don't feel scared or afraid. Quote. Looking at Angela, who didn't startle but leaned forward to point with her finger. Ino reluctantly changed back, but Angela immediately said, don't rush to change back, I haven't seen it clearly yet. Then you study yourself. What? Before Angela could react, Ino's left hand, Chang. The emergence of a sharp edge. Wave the knife towards the right hand. Pouch. Hand up the knife and drop. My king's power. Wrong. Ino's right hand flew up. Take back the blade. Rebirth of a severed limb is launched. Ino's severed right hand instantly returned to its original shape and grabbed the stump flying in the air. Then Ino put the right hand on Angela's arm. Sub-venom. For a moment. Angela's body also poured dumb black venom for a while. Then it disappeared again. It seems that her body matches unexpectedly. What is this? Angela squeezed her fists a little, excited to feel the power at this time, the same ability as you. Yes, you can customize your body shape, and you can even wear whatever clothes you want. You can say goodbye to the clothes in the future, which one you want to wear. This may be the favorite ability of many girls, right? Wear what you want to wear. Looking at Angela's graceful figure, Ino thought to himself, the whole body turned into black leather. For an instant, Ino feasted his eyes directly in the underground laboratory. Great. Ino can directly control the venom on Angela. Change back. Angela suddenly felt a sense of restraint on her body, and immediately changed the venom costume back. Just kidding. Ino watched Angela wave his hand. Angela will only wear it to herself in this way. Definitely won't wear it out. Then, you have to design a combat suit that you like to wear. I have already designed it. So fast. Let me see. Angela was not in a hurry, she walked to the original table. Pick up the wings drawn by Ino and the drawings of the Valkyrie and other equipment. Then merge it. Finally, she pulled out a drawing that she had redrawn and gave it to Ino. Ino took a look. Equipment. Valkyrie Angel. The style can be seen. In addition to the close-fitting protective clothing, there are also battle skirts to prevent splash attacks. It carries a few strands of fluffy catkins, and there is a reserved skeletal armor on the back. It seems that there is still some equipment that has not been installed. Angela put on the Valkyrie Angel equipment on the drawing and walked over. She turned around in front of Ino and said, how about it? The reserved position at the back is for wings. Unfortunately, no biotech wings have been developed yet. But my bio-nanotechnology has made breakthrough progress. If you add your sub-venom ability, we only need biological energy to achieve soaring. No other energy is needed, as long as the biological energy comes with it. Bioenergy is the normal energy in the organism. You can understand it as the physical strength of each organism. Yes, it is physical strength. You can fly with strength, but you can't even walk without strength. This kind of energy is difficult to express with data. But for biologically strong creatures, biological energy is the strongest source of energy, and there is no one. Very nice. Eno pinched his chin, admiring Angela. What do you want, Natasha, Black Widow? Isn't Angela fragrant? When he watched Marvel in The Last Life, he didn't like the role of Natasha very much. First Banner, then the US team, then Hawkeye. Forehead. No matter how beautiful the girl is, Eno only likes everything that belongs to her. Appearance is not the only choice to determine a whole person. Angela is no longer in charge of Eno at this time. In the laboratory, she used the venom ability to separate out a little bit of venom. Then start researching. She wants to make her nano-bioengineering and venom transformation a perfect fusion. In this way, the compatibility of the venom suit will be stronger in the future. Then you study first, I will go up first. Looking at Angela, who was concentrating on research, Eno turned and walked towards the elevator, back to the office on the top floor. He is sitting in the office chair. He looked at the desk in front of him and thought. When I came back just now, I heard the news of Tony's disappearance from the halogen egg. In other words, Tony has entered the cave now. It is estimated that they have been in for a while. Now S.H.I.E.L.D. and FBI people are looking for him. A Fusion is going to be messed up. Sudden. In the office on the top floor of the headquarters with a huge umbrella. Eno sits in a chair. Suddenly a golden aperture of 2 meters high appeared on the right. Particles like sparks are constantly erupting around the aperture. Through the golden aperture, Eno can see that the opposite is a space similar to a dojo. There is no doubt that Eno knows. This is the magic portal of Ancient One, and she is inviting Eno to be a guest. But what did Ancient One invite Eno to do? She looked at the Eye of Agamotto. Eno stood up and walked into the portal naturally. In an instant, Eno disappeared in the office. In a blink of an eye, I came to Ancient One's Magic Academy. Standing in the dojo of Ancient One. At this time, Ancient One was sitting on a futon, wearing normal white clothes. She looked a little old, but she was a little unusually young. And in front of her, there was the Eye of Agamotto. You seem to know a lot, and I can feel in your eyes that you know a lot of stories. Seeing that Eno came here calmly, Ancient One was a little admired. But Eno knows the latest news. You look like, know a lot. Is what you look like. Explain that Ancient One does not know about Eno. Eno smiled and found a futon to sit down. Maybe, I have been dreaming lately, and I have all dreams. You play dumb puzzles. Then I will play dumb puzzles too. Ancient One smiled and tried to suggest Eno, want to try the realm of the soul. I will try it for almost everyone who comes. Really, people who came to visit Ancient One, or anyone who is accepted by Ancient One to practice magic will be, soul out of the body, with a palm of Ancient One to experience it. This seems to have some magical effect. But, Eno doesn't like this. The level of spirit and soul is useless to me, even if it is a gem of the soul. Eno said, and I don't like the feeling of being unable to control myself. You know infinite gems. Speaking of this, Ancient One finally learned useful news for him. Yes, Eno confirmed, pointed to the eyes of Agamotto in front of Ancient One and said, like this. Eno's demand for infinite gemstones can be said to be small. But one of them is something that Eno desperately needs now. That is the cube of the universe, which is the gem of space. It has a huge and close to infinite energy. This infinite energy is needed to swallow the gene system. Although other infinite gems also carry huge energy, the energy of space gems, Eno, is estimated to be the most massive. The setting of infinite gems is very complicated. Let's set it like this first, although it seems to be infinite energy. Ancient One looked at the time gem in front of him, then looked at Eno and finally said. In the long river of time to come, your figure has never existed, but you have always existed. No matter what, you are in the future, but I can't see you. Why is that? So it is. Eno finally understood why Ancient One invited him over. Because I don't understand. I don't understand why Eno has been living in the long river of time in the future, but I can't see him clearly. Eno didn't rush to answer Ancient One, but instead asked, "What else did you see?" Ancient One replied seriously, "Except you, I can see it." Eno nodded, expressing understanding. Ancient One only knows the future of other people now, but Ancient One cannot say either. This is one of the laws of foreknowledge, and it will be changed if you say it. At the end, Eno patted his body and stood up and said, "Maybe I am an alternative, but I will do my own thing. Now send me home. Don't tell me that you do not include the return journey." Ancient One pursed her lips and smiled. She got the answer she wanted. Then a portal was opened for Eno, and on the other side of the portal was the office where Eno had just left. Eno stepped in, but said as soon as the portal closed, "Doctor Strange is still working here. If you have any questions in the future, you may be able to contact me. When the time comes, the portal is closed." On the other side of the portal, Ancient One's eyes widened instantly, but there was no excitement. Eno's words just now clarified the words Ancient One said when the four banners of the Fulian returned to the past, "The same truth as you came 5 years earlier. I know it all." Back in the office, Eno poured a cup of milk tea from the automatic brewing machine, and then sat in a chair and flipped through the news today. Today's hot spots. Tony Stark is missing. Where did he go? The Stark stock industry has experienced violent turbulence. It is suspected that most capitalists have entered the market. Sorry for the genius Stark, and count the sins and charities in life that he sells weapons. See Tony Stark's overwhelming information. Eno knew that the news of his disappearance was already known to everyone. But in a few days, he will return safely, with the small arc reactor and Mark armor technology. Jingling bell. At this time, Eno's cell phone rang on the desk. Take it and take a look. Aldrezi Killian. If you are not familiar with this name, he is the founder of the recently fired AIM Biological Research Organization. If you are not familiar with this organization yet, then he is the man who cooks the shit behind the Iron Man 3 Extremis virus. That is, the man behind the Mandarin. He met Tony at the time in the Millennium Speech in Bern, Switzerland, when Eno was 5 to 6 years old in 2000. He took the technology with joy to find Tony to cooperate but was played by Tony all day. Tony treats him like a lunatic. In the end he did become a lunatic. Thinking of this, Eno connected to the phone and said, "What's the matter?" Eno didn't want to have anything to do with him. And now their Extremis virus technology is not perfect, not the Extremis virus that Eno wants now. So we have to stop them for a while and then slaughter them, that is, we will get more fat. Eno, you are the boss of the umbrella, and we are also regarded as peers. Now our technology is almost completed. How about? Do you want to join us? Eno, is this ratio awake? The leading company in the medical industry and the umbrella company that is the unicorn in the industry want to join others. Start to swell as soon as you get a little achievement in the industry. No wonder Tony looked down on him 10 years ago. I hope you don't bother me, Aldrezi Killian. Maybe you have recently released a few good potions in the community, but you haven't reached the point where the umbrella is worthy of. Seriously, if it weren't for the industry gathering organized by the government, Eno won't even keep his cell phone number. But Killian quickly said, No, the healing potions I took out in the industry are just a little bit of our technology. Our true biotechnology is absolutely beyond your imagination. How perfect and beautiful it is. It is the crystallization of human wisdom and the key to human evolution. If you can join us, you will know how great it is. Killian brags about his strength and skills. Little did I know that Eno was so annoyed here. Eno straightforwardly said, "You go to your own biotechnology, you don't need an umbrella." Neuropathy. It's not that Eno doesn't know what its Extremis virus is. Wait until he swallows it. It can be improved, but it is definitely not used in this way. Then you just wait. We have a brand new person to join. You must not know who she is. With her, our technology will be more beautiful. Killian over there gritted his teeth and squeezed out these words. I don't know if Eno poke his sore spot. Looking for Tony was disgusted, and looking for Eno was still disgusted. It's pitiful, but disgust is disgusting. Eno still has time to tease. Which person excited you so much? Moi. Beep, beep, beep. With a ridicule and 2 words, Killian hung up the phone quickly, which was really stupid. But who did Moi start with? Can make Killian admire so much. But don't care about this, block Killian's phone call. Eno's mobile phone refuses to accept calls from strangers, so just block it. In this way, a few days passed quietly. The Middle Umbrella Company also launched a conference for the treatment spray. $99 for one bottle of 150 milliliters. It has the functions of sterilizing, cleaning, activating surrounding cells and promoting tissue repair. All wounds that do not need stitches are fine with this treatment spray. No additional means are needed. As soon as this press conference was announced, it immediately became an uproar in the society. Umbrella Company's therapeutic spray orders have sold hundreds of millions of bottles. And this is a batch of orders. Not to mention that the treatment spray is a consumable. This time, the first orders alone have brought tens of billions of dollars in revenue to the Umbrella Company. Directly crushed the restorative medicine launched by AIM a few months ago. However, this is not the highlight at all. Wait until Angela understands Venom's technique a little bit thoroughly. Then sort out some of the scientific and technological information and send it to L. Shanji's experimental base. It is believed that the bionic limb technology will be realized soon. At that time, it was called the Gospel of the Disabled. The healing spray is really just a small thing. A few days later, Eno received a message unexpectedly. Tony Stark personally invited himself to be a guest at his house, and Pepper also wanted to meet Angela. And Tony, who has just got off the transport plane, is also heading to his home in Marbury, Los Angeles. Is he inviting himself as soon as he comes back? Didn't you go directly to the Stark Tower and announce the closure of the weapons manufacturing department? Eno SMS reply. Yes, wait for me for a few hours. Tony immediately replied over there, okay. New York is quite far from Los Angeles, even if Eno does a private jet, it takes several hours. But call Angela first. Eno dialed the phone connected to the underground laboratory. Angela, Tony was found. He invited me to his house as a guest. Pepper also wants to see you. Do you have time to go? After a while, the phone replied, okay, I'll be here soon. Angela was simple, wearing a white lab coat and taking the elevator up. Then her clothes turned into everyday clothes like glue. Well, the ability of Venom, copy clothes. Leave the Umbrella building. Angela drove to the private airfield. On the way, she drove the car and asked, Tony disappeared a few days ago. Why did he invite you to be a guest when he was found today? Eno is also very curious about this question. His relationship with Tony is pretty good. But it is far from a very good point. But why did Tony find himself the first thing he did when he came back? Eno replied, I don't know, maybe there is something to talk about. After arriving at the airport, take a private jet. A few hours later arrived at Marbury in Los Angeles. Then drive to the home address Tony gave him. His luxurious villa occupies an area of several thousand square meters, facing the sea, and green grassland. Before coming to Tony's mansion, Mr. Eno, Miss Angela Ziegler, identity confirmed, you can enter. Through the recognition of Jarvis, the two enter Tony's mansion. Tony, who received the news from Jarvis Butler, walked to the door and unexpectedly hugged Eno. He hung his assistant, with the other end hanging from his neck. And through his t-shirt, Eno could see the arc reactor glowing on his chest. Hugging for a while, Tony let go. As you can see, my hand is hurt a little. I think the injury on your side may be a bit bigger. Eno pointed to the center of Tony's chest. No, it's not my wound. Tony took Eno to the living room and said as he walked, it's a part of me, my organ. Pepper seemed to know what Tony was going to talk about, and took Angela to the kitchen to do something. Eno sits on the sofa in Tony's living room. Tony asked while preparing drinks on the drunk driving side, can you drink? Don't say you are not drunk. Eno watched the wine with one hand, used the corner of the table, bit his teeth and finally opened the wine bottle. Tony said, I have drunk a lot, but I haven't been drunk. Why don't you open that bottle of wine and let us try? Tony looked in the direction of Eno's fingers, the drunk driving with the water of life of the giant bear country, decisively raised the whiskey in his hand, drink this today. Seeing Tony pouring his drink, Eno stood up and walked over to pick up a glass. Bring the wine bottle over again and go back to the sofa with Tony and sit down. Eno took a sip and said, why are you calling me here in a hurry? I like your straightforward and refreshing character. Tony took the wine glass and took the time to stretch out his index finger to mean Eno. I don't want to be in the business of producing and selling weapons anymore. After speaking, he took a sip of the wine in the glass. Really, Eno knows. At this time, Tony realized that even if he was doing charity, he could not avoid the fundamental principle of indirect harm from selling weapons. Even if he sells weapons for charity, he thinks that the weapons only need to be sold to bad guys. But the fact is, the eggs are useless. Eno lay on the sofa cushions and asked, then what are you going to do? Sell toy guns, or serialize cartoons? Tony thought for a while and said, we will shut down the weapon manufacturing department first. After that, he limped his right hand and turned to his side with difficulty, seriously, looking at Eno and said, should I also be a medical company? Haha, just kidding, I don't want to cross industries to take a new path. But I thank you for your medicine first. My medicine. Eno looked at Tony who had just finished joking, then kidney pills. Oh, don't say that. Tony put the wine glass in his left hand on the table, then took out an empty pill box from his trouser pocket and threw it on the table. Eno looked over. Hypertrophic medicine. Isn't this thing Eno only available to the military? Tony has it. Rhodey gave it to me before, and I stuffed it into my pants, which really helped me a lot when I was locked in a cave. Tony picked up the glass again and drank the whiskey. They didn't search your body. Will this medicine be left to you? Eno asked, looking at Tony. Those terrorists will leave this medicine to him. Waiting to be overturned. Quote. Hearing Eno's words, Tony drank. I'm hiding in my crotch. Ha, Eno's gesture of drinking was sprayed. Okay, I knew you were going to laugh, you kid, you don't even know the tolerance of an adult. Tony drank his whiskey depressed, and he knew that Eno was going to laugh. Eno looked at the ARC's core on Tony's chest. Tony can take this thing out. And of course, the current medical operation can be carried out without risk. Don't say that the energy of the armor must use the one on Tony's chest. The war machine he gave to Lieutenant Colonel Roddy put the small ARC outside on the armor. He just found the other half of his life. Looking at Tony, Eno tried to ask, is it necessary to protect the Umbrella Headquarters hospital? There is basically no risk. No, Tony rebuffed, I believe I can solve it. Okay, this is Tony. Would rather be poisoned to death by palladium than take the initiative to take off the problem on his chest. Either solve it or die. This is Iron Man. After reading Iron Man 3, you must have a deep understanding of a sentence, and you still can't even understand the meaning of this sentence, that is. So let me make a summary of this matter, then I will say that my armor has never been a hobby, or an excuse to escape, it is a cocoon waiting to emerge, and now, I have emerged from the cocoon. You can take away my house, my toys and so-called tricks, but one thing will never change, I am Iron Man. Tony regards the ARC core or Iron Man as part of himself. If you want to take it out, that's taking out Tony's organs. This is why Tony Palladium poisoning does not choose surgery to remove the core of the ARC. He can probably use no energy from his chest. Make another ARC core specifically to power the armor. But he doesn't do it. It is because of this. Eno looked at the refusal to firm Tony, and he also expected this. Well, if there is a chance, Umbrella Hospital will not refuse this operation fee in the name of the hospital that saved Tony Stark on the news. Rich don't make a fool. Tony nodded and looked at the wine glass, his eyes gradually deepened. Don't you ask me why I insist on closing the Stark weapon manufacturing department. Eno held the wine glass, raised his hand and gestured. Tony said slowly, I used to think that it didn't matter what I developed or sold weapons. I just need to make sure that the weapons are not sold to the bad guys. But now, I found out that I was wrong. Tony said that after taking a sip of wine, he continued. In Afghanistan, I saw my weapons being sold to those terrorists. But I promise, I never approved those orders, but what about it? At this time Eno interjected. You still indirectly killed countless kind, innocent or normal people. Correct. Tony nodded heavily. So this time, I got the bad results, I was injured by the weapon that I developed. So I want to shut down the weapons manufacturing department of Stark Industries, even if the stock plummets, it doesn't matter. Eno knows that Tony is determined this time and must close the weapon manufacturing department. For this injury, Tony knew that the weapon was still in his own hands. Only oneself can be trusted in the world. Thinking of this, Eno still reminded, then you still have to keep some of the antiques from Stark Industries. The banknotes in their pockets are cut in half because of what you will say next. And you don't plan to develop weapons anymore. Guess what will they do to you? It's useless, and there is hatred again. Of course it is done. Referred to as wipe the neck. And Tony has more technology. It is inevitable that they will use more threatening means to force Tony to hand over the technology. This is not impossible. Otherwise, how could Eno be intercepted and killed by Mare Exodus mercenaries? As long as the opportunity is found, start. It's normal. But Tony obviously didn't care. He opened his t-shirt and showed Eno the core of his arc. Don't be afraid, I have this, with my little cutie. They made me hurt. Instead of knocking me down, they let me know what I should do and what I want to do. That's it. Watching Tony pull down his t-shirt, Eno raised his glass to celebrate in front of Tony, then congratulations in advance for finding your way to life. Ping. Tony and Eno met for a drink. It feels very good, I don't regret it. Oh my god, how much did you drink with Eno? At this time, Pepper brought Angie over. She looked at the empty wine bottles on the table in surprise. The whole bottle was drunk by both of them. If Tony drank it alone, Pepper wouldn't matter. But it was drinking with Eno, and Pepper was unwilling. She always treats Eno, who dropped out of school and went home to take charge of the company, teenager. Very caring. I said I'm an adult. Eno said helplessly to Pepper. But there will be a press conference when he waits, so he just brought this drunk situation with him. Pepper spread his hands and looked at Tony helplessly. That's good attention, just go like this. Tony raised his glass, agreeing and adopting Pepper's idea. Oh, Pepper held his forehead. She hadn't watched Tony's limping hand like a crippled state. She was going to quarrel with him long ago. So you go as you are now, the reporters are still waiting for you. Okay, I will go now. Tony finished the last sip of wine in the glass. Then Angela and I will also go back. Eno also stood up, patted Tony on the shoulder and said, waiting for you to speak, low-key, at the press conference. Tony gave a thumbs up and said, of course, I am very low-key. Hook up and walk out of Tony's luxurious villa. Eno took Angela and left first. Tony himself wants Pepper to drive him to a private airfield to fly to New York. Back in the car, Angela drove to the airport. Eno asked, what did you talk to Pepper? How do I feel? She seemed a little sulking. When Angela heard Eno's words, she smiled secretly at the corner of her mouth. Let's talk about how each boss is doing. But obviously after a comparison, she can't wait to follow you when she is a few dozen years younger. So you guys got together to talk about this. It can be said that women are like this. Eno thought they would talk about company management, job technical exchanges and the like when they got together. Angela, why is Tony looking for you in such a hurry this time? Eno summed it up a bit, consolation and thanks in my heart. To tell the truth, Tony operates this wave. Let Eno know how this living genius killed his life. That's right, Eno said suddenly. Did you finally see the LED light on Tony's chest? Angela drove the car and nodded. I'm just wondering what he is. The concentrated arc reactor, referred to as the arc reactor, has an energy output of 3 billion joules per second. It's the condensed version of the one under the Stark Tower. Correct. Tony's generation is only a preliminary version, without palladium batteries. This is an arc reactor made with only 1.6 grams of palladium. But if you ask Eno if you want it, Eno can tell you the truth. So, it is far less energy than Eno gains after taking control of the planet. If Eno can master a little planet, the global energy released daily and solar energy Eno can be collected into energy particles and stored in the core of the Earth. Compared with these huge energies, the arc reactor is insignificant. At this time, Angela turned her head and glanced at Eno. You don't seem to be interested in that arc reactor. Almost. Eno nodded. In a while, I will be better than that. Particle storage, quantum transmission. This has crushed all the known technologies. Quantum transmission. There is no distance in proximity transmission, no consumption in proximity transmission, and the transmission time is close to zero. But this method can only transfer his system and ability. Daily consumption is not enough. But don't you think that all of these are used for daily consumption? Anti-aircraft guns to fight mosquitoes are overkill. After a few hours of private jet, the two Eno returned home. Sitting on the sofa, Angela and Eno cuddled together and watched TV together. But it hasn't waited for the time to take a shower. Angela suddenly took out a tablet, turned out a 3D model and a few drawings to Eno. Eno took it. This is wing. Eno looked at Angela. The exogenous wings have been designed. Angela took a touchscreen pen and turned on her slender finger. Anyway, it's all bioenergy. I just need to design the best eruption direction and beauty. Eno carefully looked at the drawings and modeling in his hand. The tail of the wings connects to the shoulder blades. It can be rotated in a 180-degree semicircular universal direction from the back. Among the two erected wings, that is, the wing, each has 5 light rings. This is the direction of bioenergy eruption mentioned by Angela. But, Eno stretched out his hand to Angie, touchscreen pen. Looking at the innocent Eno, Angela put the pen in his hand with a bad foreboding. Holding a pen, Eno first removed the wings and wings, leaving only the skeleton. Because this skeleton structure is the most reasonable, Angela's design is no problem. But moving and turning to the bioenergy gushing diamond has problems. Instead of having 5 light diamonds on each wing, then why not put on light wings? Thousands of light wings on a pair of wings can flexibly adjust the direction of energy eruption. If there are only 10, it is easier to control. But it's not flexible. Swish. Eno was flying on the tablet with his pen. Angela looked at the increasingly perfect wings and didn't want to look at it. I have worked hard for so long, and you have gradually improved after a glance. It's so irritating. After a while, Eno drew a light-winged wing based on Angela's wing skeleton. But it can also be understood as light wing wings. Because this wing is also like Guangling. Just increase from 10 to several thousand. And it's much more beautiful. Here you are. Eno gave Angela the modeling and drawings on the tablet. Quickly change to show me, although the creatures in your body are only enough for you to glide, not for flying. Angela lit the tablet with her hand and looked at the wing modeling. While looking at the corresponding drawing next to him, he said, "How can it be so fast? You have to let me understand the details and principles, otherwise how to change. You go take a bath first." That's right. Eno nodded, took off his loose top, and walked towards the bathroom with a strong upper body, but behind Eno, Angela watched him leak a mysterious smile. Soak in the bathtub. Eno's head is thinking about the genetic system on the cushion of the bathtub. If you have to wait for yourself to get the universe Rubik's Cube charging system. Is it all the year of the monkey? But what should I do if I overdo it now? Let's not talk about the strengthening of the God gene. How much can the venom transformation be strengthened? How much should be strengthened first? After much deliberation, it is better to go to Tony to order a large arc reactor in a few days. Because it's just to recharge the system. The concentrated arc reactor Eno does not need it. Just need a large one and then provide nuclear fusion elements. Although it is more expensive. But it is also acceptable. What about Marvel? The poor rely on mutation, and the rich rely on technology. This sentence is bullshit in Eno. His biotechnology, eating evolution and technology. The thief burned money. Card pool. At this time, the glass door of the bathroom was suddenly pulled open. Angela walked in wrapped in a long bath towel. Lying in the bathtub, Eno hung his hands on both sides of the bathtub fence and said, "What? The design hits you, now you're not convinced. Don't blame me for not reminding you, you are even more beaten in this regard." Angela Duck's beak held up her head and said, "How do you know if you don't try it? The result is no result. Does this need to be said?" Angela was carried back to the bed by Eno and covered the quilt. This chick is dead asleep. Back in the kitchen, Eno took out a bottle of water of life from the drunk driving. On the balcony back to the bedroom, facing Angela, sitting on the sofa on the second-floor balcony, looking at the canal and the Statue of Liberty in the distance. Take a mouthful of boredom. Although it's a bit spicy, it still doesn't make much difference. Looking at the bottle in his hand, if it wasn't for 96 degrees and he just opened it. Eno doubted whether it was a fake wine. After the system is strengthened, these things will have no effect on him. Even if the bottle of dichlorvis, crane top red has no effect on Eno. The next day, as soon as Eno woke up, he picked up the phone, and even if the overwhelming Tony closed the news of the Stark weapon manufacturing department, and the stock of Stark Industries plummeted by more than 50%. This is for Eno. If it wasn't for acquaintance, he had to short Stark by a few hands. Picking up the phone, Eno called Tony. But interestingly, Tony did not get up. Pepper picked it up. "Hello, Mr. Eno. Tony is still sleeping. Do you need me to wake him up?" "Forget it. Call me when he wakes up." "Okay." After hanging up the phone in a few sentences, Eno had forgotten that Tony was slept and flew up. It may also be that Eno wakes up early, and it is only 7 to 8 o'clock in the morning. But then Eno's belly covered with a thin blanket felt a little hand sliding around. Turning her head, Angela was still half asleep. The legs are still on his body. It really is. The unconscious state can still be like this. After Angela's little hand touched for a while, she gradually regained consciousness. I opened my eyes and saw that Eno was looking at him. Angela closed her eyes and leaned forward, wanting to settle down. "Pity, you didn't brush your teeth, don't stabilize me." Her face was covered by the long and strong palm. "Angela, after the fusion venom transforms, the body will be. No, there is. Dirt. It's." Angela rolled over and rode on Eno, hammering his chest with both hands. "You are framing. I still don't dislike you for not brushing your teeth." Good. Eno grabbed her hands and could only comfort her. "Don't dislike it." "Angela. Then come again." "Eno, why don't you brush your teeth together?" "You." Ended the early morning farce. Angela and Eno finished washing and headed to the Umbrella headquarters. On the way, Eno told Angela about asking Tony to build an underground large arc reactor. Angela asked, where do you want to use it?" "Our umbrellas don't need so much energy." "I want to use it, not the umbrella." Eno pointed his finger at himself and said, "My genetic evolution requires a huge amount of energy, a huge amount beyond Blue Star's imagination." "No wonder." Angela continued driving the car and said, "Your genes are so powerful that it is appalling. Anyway, I haven't seen it before, so I dare not shoot in science fiction films like this. How about your research there? Except that the observation characteristics are somewhat enlightening, I can't do in-depth research, but I also benefit a lot." This is why Eno is researching his own genes. That is the firewall that comes with genes and the difficulty of research. Regardless of firewalls, no one in the universe can complete research on difficulty alone. Otherwise, the God gene would have been copied long ago. Ego still uses so many alien monsters to give birth to children to help him control the planet. In the end, only Shingju carried half of his gene. While talking, the two arrived at the industrial park of the Umbrella headquarters building. Riding the elevator to the top office, Eno took out the computer software modeling and drawing drawings on the chair. Eno asked as he drew, "You can study the characteristics of the venom in depth, and it will be useful later. It has a lot of topics in repair and extensibility that can be deepened, not as difficult as the previous genes." Angela stood beside Eno and nodded, holding her tablet to jot down these things. "Then what was the name of your previous genetic project?" Eno thought for a while, still using the original name. "It's called the God Gene Project." Angela also thought it was appropriate, and called the previous gene the God Gene. Eno continued, "Let's not talk about the ability of venom to regenerate limbs after severed limbs. You have also seen it, but sort out the extended topics and throw them to the Los Angeles experimental base to make them biomechanical bionic limbs. Biomechanical bionic hands, feet, fingers, toes, etc., let them study. After this technology is implemented, you can have new technologies by adding your nanotechnology. As for why biomechanical bionic limbs? Because now I can't do a simple rebirth from a severed limb. And Angela's greatest strength lies in nanobiology. Make a perfect limb, take it and let Angela's technique merge with it. A new type of cutting-edge technology can definitely be produced. This technology is not only for artificial limbs, but also for laying the foundation for the artificial human body in the future. But if you say it violates human ethics, there's nothing to say about that. When you have no organs, I see if you want artificial organs. Disabled, Do you want artificial limbs? Angela nodded and recorded the incident on the tablet. Under the umbrella, there is no need to worry about network leaks. The internal local area network plus the main equipment disconnected, only use the data cable to connect. No matter how good your internet technology is, you have a shit if you don't have internet. No matter how powerful hackers are, they are afraid of global power outages. Angela looked at Eno and said while drawing drawings and modeling on her computer and curiously asked, "What are you doing?" "Redesign the shape," Eno said, but didn't stop, "since the light wings have been confirmed last night. Then my Venom transformation must at least look suitable, right? A dumb black muscle shape with light wings and wings is too ugly." Angela looked at Eno's redesigned shape, nodded and said, "Then I will go to the laboratory first." Angela held her tablet and walked to the elevator next to the bookcase, and went down to the underground laboratory. And Eno, who was still drawing pictures in the office, the phone rang on his desk. Jingling bell. "Pick it up and take a look." Tony Stark. Connected. "Whoa." As soon as it was connected, Tony made a hatch and said, "I heard Pepper said you had something to do with me in the morning." "Sorry, I just woke up now." Eno turned on the hands-free, put the phone on the table and continued to draw pictures. "Seeing your plummeting stock, I will give you a business. I want to build a giant arc reactor next to the Umbrella building." Okay, I doubt if you are monitoring me, of course this is a joke. How to say, I just made a new breakthrough in this giant arc reactor last night. Isn't that just right? Eno said, just build the latest one. I'll send you how much. No. Tony suddenly refused loudly. Your medicine has helped me a lot, this is my gift in return, okay? How much is my medicine? Eno said badly, are you making me a profit? If you don't accept it, then I won't accept this order, and Stark Enterprise also rejects this order. Tony's tone was firm, serious and without hesitation. Well, this also fits Tony's character very well. There is gratitude for gratitude, revenge for revenge. Okay, no problem. Eno stretched out in the chair. Anyway, even if the stocks of the Stark Arms Manufacturing Division plummet, you don't need much money. The arms manufacturing department is only one part of Stark industry, and it also accounts for the largest proportion. But since the big natives give money, those who don't need it are idiots. Okay, Tony said happily, today I will let people pass, I have something to do, hang up first. Okay, hang up the phone. Eno also finished his new model. Compared to the previous appearance, this new shape does not look like an alien creature at a glance. On the contrary, it is like a coexistence of biology and technology. A bit of a visual sense of the combination of cyberpunk, futuristic technology and armor. Eno added the wing model to this body model. Okay. More like it, but it's also more perfect. Eno looked at the modeling and drawings in the computer. It's finally confirmed and that's it. Pulling out a small board from the desk sideways. There is a row of various buttons on it. Eno pressed 2 of them. The transparent curtains in the huge office closed automatically. Then the lights in the office came on. Eno stood up and walked to a slightly empty place. Venom transformation. In a blink, Eno's height reached 230 centimeters again. He walked to the French window and looked at his new body. The matte black was changed to a low-key appearance with silver-based gold threads. Without the muscular shape of the previous Venom. It's like a normal person wearing a close-fitting brilliant armor. Eno nodded in satisfaction, and his shoulder blades moved slightly. Light feathers, expand. This, like, Avatar. Gee, Eno squeezed himself down. Too perfect. Take the American superhero aesthetics. Even if he does bad things, he still has a lot of die-hard fans. As long as you grow well, Sangwon runs with the 5 senses. Cancel the transformation. Gene phagocytic system. New Venom ability. Light feather wing. This. Eno took a closer look at the system. The developed capabilities will actually be recorded in the system. That is to say, can Angela also use it? Eno, who had already cancelled his transformation, walked to the desk and pressed the control panel to reopen the curtains. Then he called Angela and said, you can use the light wings and the ability of Venom to transform. Okay, alright. After a while, there was a surprise sound from Angela's side, I haven't finished studying this yet. Why can it be used directly? Eno smiled in the office. This should be the brood effect. As long as I give you permission to let you inherit abilities, then your child venom can also learn to inherit. But you still have to understand it thoroughly, otherwise it won't work well. Okay, I see. Angela hung up the phone happily. Gene phagocytic system. New venom ability. Brood effect, brood consciousness. Is that so? Eno understood thoroughly. In the ability to be included in the system, you must understand thoroughly and have a complete setting. Let's take a look at the detailed introduction of capabilities. Mother Nest Consciousness. Any existence produced by you will be treated to you at any level. Mother Nest Effect. There is a perfect link between the children, but this requires permission. It seems correct. This is Eno's understanding. In the evening, Tony's construction team came to the Umbrella Industrial Park to plan the scope and standards of construction. But because of the underground laboratory under the Umbrella building, Eno let them be built next to it, which can be said to be a link building downstairs. Then the fence was pulled up over there. Less than a few days. The giant arc reactor is completed. The size of its light reaction furnace is almost 10 meters in diameter. In terms of production capacity, it depends on how many fusion elements you want to add to it. For example, Tony now uses palladium. It is an indispensable core material in high-tech fields such as aerospace, aviation, navigation, weapons, and nuclear energy. And the natural mining capacity is extremely small. The price is so expensive. But think for the Umbrella, this amount of money is not a big deal. Eno came to the subterranean boat reactor in the annex. The blue cold nuclear fusion energy is rapidly transmitted in the circular channel in its body. Eno's hand is attached to the machine of the reactor, and he is ready to let the system establish a quantum transmission channel with this arc reactor. Establish energy communication. Gene phagocytic system. Gene power. 1% of the gods, 41% of venoms. Set both abilities to promote evolution together. Eno let go of his hand. The gods may evolve slowly, but the venom ability should be able to get a little effect soon. Leave the arc reactor. Eno went back to the office again. As a result, he suddenly received a call from a special person. Obadiah Stein. It was the Iron Overlord, the culprit that led Tony to go to Afghanistan to be kidnapped. Line connected. Hi, Eno, how are you doing? Is your health better? As soon as he came up, this Obadiah was close to the workplace. Eno took the phone, walked to the French window behind, looked at the Statue of Liberty diagonally and said, "Not bad, what's the matter? Oh, you are still that simple and simple." The Iron Overlord over there pretended to say, "Then I'll be simple and crisp. Tonight at 8 o'clock in the Decene Concert Hall, Tony will give the Firefighters House Foundation a donation fund for the third time. He hopes that you can also come and gather for a meeting, and I will personally invite it." Okay, Eno knows what scene this is. Obadiah was obviously lying to Eno. Tony didn't even know about it. So it is impossible for him to invite himself. And when I went, this foundation helped Stark Industry a lot by creating momentum in the society. After all, Eno's image in society. It's a great kind person. If you exaggerate it and make it sound better, it would be the Savior and Our Lady. This is not a derogatory term and derogatory meaning. It is in the culture of the United States. Umbrella companies benefit the country and the people too much, but also earn money. This is why it was said before that the umbrella knows why it binds itself and the people together. Before absolute power, people are power. If Obadiah, the arms company, invites Eno to the banquet, the stock can be at least a lot better. But this doesn't mean that Eno shouldn't go. On the contrary, it's interesting to go. Holding the phone, Eno said, "Okay, no problem, I'll be late." "Ha ha ha, of course," Obadiah over there said happily. "The big man must be there later." Hang up the phone. Eno couldn't help but let out an idiot. Obadiah, Iron Overlord, is a typical overexpanded person. Before Tony's accident, the weapons they produce are all researched by Tony. His sales channels are also Tony's relationship. The board of directors only held the stock, and Obadiah was only related to Stark Industries before Tony took over the company. But it is far from being in power. Do you want to overthrow the Master Tony? But let's not say, if it weren't for Tony's death, Obadiah would have really become it. Eno checked the time. It's only the afternoon. Back at the desk, Eno informed Angela to join him at the banquet in the evening. How can there be no female companions when there is a party? Night. Angela drove the R8 supercar of the German car manufacturer D to the Dixney Concert Hall. And this supercar has a two-seater, mid-mounted transparent engine, a top speed of 316 km per hour, and a silver-white body. One word to end: handsome. Obadiah, Stark. Angie drove the car, questioning, then why do you know you want to go? Of course it's interesting. Eno put his hand on the car window and hummed, how can I ignore his performance when it comes to his performance? Haha, Angela laughed. You are so interesting again. I can't write a giggle, it feels like a duck. After driving for a while, the two of them arrived at Duchovny's concert hall. Outside the square of the hall, the doorman and the security guard stopped reporters with long guns and short guns from entering. But the reporters saw the umbrella company's license plate, and they rushed up. The security members were so scared that dozens of people came over and quickly evacuated the reporters, and stood with their bodies to clear a channel for Eno. Got out of the car. Eno took the key from Angela and gave the key to the doorman standing next to him. He will drive the car to the parking lot. Then Angela took Eno's elbow and headed to the concert hall. Walking on the red carpet, these reporters shouted their own questions. Excuse me, does Mr. Eno come here to cooperate with Stark Industries? What's the relationship between Mr. Eno and Tony Stark? I heard that Mr. Tony Stark invited you. Is that true? Does the umbrella company have the latest research results? But obviously Eno doesn't need to answer these questions here. A few hours before this, Tony paints his latest Mark armor in the laboratory. This Mark armor has already used Tony's latest arc reactor and palladium block. At this time, a piece of news was being broadcast on the TV in front of Tony. Tonight at 8 o'clock in the Dixney Concert Hall, Mr. Tony Stark will present the donation fund for the third time to the Firefighters House Foundation. At that time, he will also invite the president of the umbrella company. Mr. Eno will also come to this banquet. Whether this is the cooperation between Stark Industries and Umbrella, let us wait and see. Tony looked at the news blankly. He turned to ask Jarvis, am I awake? Did I receive this application? Have I invited Eno? Jarvis, none, sir. Tony squeezed his chin, looked at the time on his watch and asked, how long will it take to paint? Jarvis, 5 hours. Don't wait for me. The picture returns to Dixney at this time. Eno led Angela to the banquet hall. Obadiah walked to Eno's left. He was holding a small wine glass and a white scarf around his neck. Although it looks mature, there is always envy and jealousy in the eyes of Eno. He said, hey, it was early, Tony may have to wait a while, he is a little uncomfortable now. Eno listened to him whispering here, then I will go in first. I like a quieter place. Okay, is there a security member over there to take you in, or do you need me to lead the way for you? No, you can entertain here first. With Angela holding a bowl in her right hand, she walked into the banquet hall with golden light and musical melody. Eno took 2 glasses of wine and walked to a quieter seat. These are 4 seats in 2 rows, and Angela and Eno are sitting face to face. Eno pushed the wine to Angela and said, how do you feel? This kind of environment. Angela took a sip of her wine and looked around randomly. How do you feel? So do I. It seems that we have always been the same. Neither Eno nor Angela like these bells and whistles. Compared with these, she would rather stay in the laboratory. Eno prefers to be simple and direct. Hi, Mr. Eno. At this time, a gentle male voice rang beside Eno. Eno saw that it was the slightly Mediterranean agent. Hello, Agent Coulson. Collison smiled. Your memory is much better than Tony Stark. How is the medicinal use of the umbrella? The agents are still safe. Eno talked about the most normal routines in the workplace. Your medication is as assured as ever. That's good. After a few words, after a glass of wine, Collison left. His main task today is Tony. And Eno is a good relationship, you have to say hello when you see it. It looks like their National Land Security Bureau's professionalism is quite comprehensive. Look, even Angela doesn't want to read all the former name of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's too mouthy. Of course, Eno watched Coulson leave behind. Where there is something, there will be them, and we will have a lot of relationships with them in the future. Angela nodded and decided to go back and learn more about this security bureau. Hi, Mr. Eno. Hello, Miss Angela. At this time, another soft female voice sounded beside Eno. Eno looked like a woman she didn't know, but she looked okay, although not to her own taste. You are Kristen. The big brown wavy woman also handed Eno her business card by the way. Eno took it and took a look. Broadcast reporter of a newspaper. Okay. Eno gave the business card to Angela, and Angela would throw it away after a while. What's the matter with me? I just admire you too much. Can I interview you? Looking at this female reporter who is holding paper and pen, no recorder, and no photos. Eno feels pretty good about her meeting etiquette, only holding paper and pen, not as long as the other reporters, which is very polite. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.